Coming up on this episode of the DTVC podcast, we've got Chris the Brain Kacvinsky on to talk about martial law 2. So we get a little Wincott, a little Rothrock, maybe a little Evan Lurie. So stay tuned for that. That was a really fun conversation there. Also, we do start our conversation talking about Wings Hauser because he actually passed. We learned of his passing hours before Chris and I recorded. So we do start the conversation discussing him, and then we get into a little martial law too. So stay tuned for that in just a few minutes. And then I did record with Ty for his monthly hit. And so I'm not sure if that's going to be on April 1st or April 8th, but stay tuned for that as well in the coming weeks. We do John Cusack on the skid, so we'll be looking at Pursuit and River Runs Red. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, next Tuesday, April 1st, that's my birthday. So I'm going to be turning 46. 46. Okay, that's what I'm going to be. But I'm going to be going to see a Yankees game at Yankee Stadium for my birthday. It's some kind of deal that they have if you have a MasterCard, because I guess they have some sort of sponsorship with MasterCard where the ticket was really cheap. It was like $9 to get in the door. So what better can you do on your birthday than spend your birthday at Yankee Stadium? That's what I always say. It's a fun way to do it. And then, of course, I got the next day I'll be spending the day with my wife, with Jen, because I think that's how it worked out with the pricing. But anyway, just to give you a heads up, in case I don't get that April 1st episode up right away, it may be April 2nd. So just a long way for me to explain that to you. But yes, just keep that in mind. And then in terms of DTVC Extra, we recently posted our Sony Spider-Verse without Spider-Man episode, so you can check that one out in amongst the rest of the episodes that you're hearing here. I don't know when the next DTVC Extra is going to be. I'm still thinking about doing that Nicolas Cage 90s action one, so we'll see. I'm looking to upgrade my computer setup here in the coming weeks. So, again, birthday coming, maybe use a little birthday money to upgrade the computer setup here, which hopefully that might open the door to some more movies that we haven't been able to get to see, but also maybe some better recording and that kind of thing as well. So fingers crossed that we were able to make that happen. Yeah, and then in terms of the site, we've got this weekend we're going to try to do Relentless. So we'll have that one with Lauren Shaw and Sydney Sweeney. So stay tuned for that one. And then in 2 weeks, looking to probably do some more PM with Pure Danger. Somebody's drawing a blank on that name. Pure Danger with C. Thomas Howell. So keep an eye out for that one as well. That was a really fun movie. I discussed that on an episode with John Cross from After Movie Diner. And I think what he's going to do, because we did it before he switched over to doing the PM podcast, he may save that one for a PM podcast episode. So there was a discussion that we had on that, but he hasn't aired it yet. So just to keep that in mind. Now, speaking of the PM podcast, I was recently on to discuss Steel Frontier. So definitely check that out. If you're not subscribed to the PM podcast, you should be. Really, really fun episodes there. So far, I think we've got 3 up as we're recording this. I was the third one, Steel Frontier, but he's also got Sweeper with the guys from Comeuppance, and then with Dr. Action he did Rage. So 3 classics there. But the thing I really liked about this Steel Frontier episode that I did with John is that he interviews Jacobson Hart, who was a screenwriter, also co-director on the film, and he had some really thoughtful insights on the making of Steel Frontier and just some of the things that they were going for, some of the ideas they had in terms of working in the exploitation medium. So yeah, definitely check that out. Again, if you're not subscribed to PM Entertainment Podcast, you should be. So definitely check that one out. I was on that one. Comeuppance. So they've also published a recent episode post the one that I was on with them. So I was on, we did a hanging out episode. Then they had Rich Pierce, screenwriter, on as well. That was another fun episode with him. So definitely check those 2 out. But yeah, if you want to check me out on that one, I'm there. Then I also recorded recently for Todd Liebenau's Forgotten Film Cast. We discussed Wings Hauser movie L.A. Bounty. So that one should be going up soon as well. So again, should be subscribed to Forgotten Film Cast, just like you also should be subscribed to Comeuppance Reviews. And then with our guest today, Chris Kacvinsky, definitely should be subscribed to Bulletproof because they've done some really great episodes, including I think it's Mission of Justice, the Wincott film. They covered that one recently. So they've got some really great episodes as well. So so a lot of podcasts. I'm giving you a lot of podcasts to listen to between me being guesting on things and then our guests doing their own podcast. So a lot of stuff there. But I guess this is as good a place as any to wrap it up here. My novel, Nadia and Aiden, is available paperback, Kindle Unlimited. Always appreciate if someone who wants to pick that up. Hey, What's a great birthday present, right? If you know somebody who's got a birthday in April, you get them my books. It's like you're getting me a birthday present because you're buying a copy of my book and you're giving them a birthday present. So what better? What better? It's like two birthday presents for the price of one. But anyway, again, anybody wants to pick up the book, I always appreciate it. But we're already 5 minutes in here. Why don't we wrap it? Because I'm rambling. So we're going to play a theme song in here by John Cross from Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixers. And then when we come back, Chris the Brain Kacvinsky from Bulletproof Action is on, and we'll be looking at Martial Law 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to the DTVC podcast. As always, this is Matt here, and I am joined once again by very special guest, Chris the Brain Kacvinsky from Bulletproof Action. Welcome back, Chris.
Oh, it is great to be back, Matt. And I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about, but I know we have some somber news to cover before we get into that.
We do, yeah. So for people listening, the day that we're recording this, we found out earlier in the day that legend Wings Hauser unfortunately left us. So really sad news there. I know you had posted on Bulletproof's Instagram. I'll be doing it tonight on the Facebook page, a little bit about him. But yeah, Chris, and anything that you wanted to say about Wings?
Yeah, I had seen Austin Trunick's post about it from the Canon Film Guide and was like, oh, not another one.
Yeah.
I mean, Wings is one of those, like, if you are a B-movie fan and if you're listening to this podcast, you very likely are, or you have made a very grave mistake. Yeah, he's been in so many great, and I think about it and I'm like, you know what movie I've never seen of his and that's been sitting on my watch list forever is LA Bounty.
Yes. So crazy story here. Now, again, for people listening to this is I'm talking about future podcasts, which means I'm counting chickens before they hatch. But
Right.
Todd Liebenow from Forgotten Film, because I was scheduled to be on his podcast because somebody else had dropped out and he needed somebody in, and he. We were originally going to do another movie, and then he pinged me. He's like, "Hey, think about maybe doing a Wings Hauser movie." I was like, "Sure. What did you have in mind?" He said, "L.A. Bounty." And so I did see that one. It is as good as you can imagine. I haven't seen it forever, so I reviewed it on the blog back in the late 2000s. So it's been since then, which is kind of crazy to think that somebody who's born when I wrote that post is finishing up high school and potentially going into college.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finally watch it. I mean, it's sad that it took him dying for me to finally like.
Right.
Oh yeah, I've had that on my watch list forever. I'm gonna finally sit down and watch that this weekend, and I'll probably do a post on it. Why not?
It's definitely one that belongs on the Bulletproof Action site. It's one of those. It's like when I do a review and I see that you guys have covered it and maybe comeuppance and video vacuum, and I'm like, man, why is it taking me so long to do it? I
Right.
think that this is probably kind of like one of those for you. I
Yeah.
think comeuppance has done it as well, and I think I think video vacuum. I think it's one of those ones that it's one that you guys relate to the party on.
Certainly am. But you know what? Maybe everybody who's already seen it is going to be jealous because I'm going to get to see it for the very first time and
Yes.
enjoy the awesomeness of Mr. Wings Hauser.
Well, yeah, I don't know if jealous is the right word. More like excited. I am excited for you to experience this movie because, I mean, at least Sybil Danning, she's still with us.
Yes.
Touch wood, as they say in the UK. Yeah, but so you're at least
Sybil
watching.
Danning made a lot of men touch wood. I'll tell you that right now.
Exactly. And I mean, the gun that she has in LA Bounty, it's like, you think about the old show Sledgehammer, which I feel like I shouldn't be calling that an old show, but it is, right? Because it came out in the 80s. But
It certainly is.
right, exactly. But it's almost like they were like, what if we did just one episode. It's like darker and has Sybil Danning instead of, I can't remember the actor's name who played the main, the sledgehammer guy, but or if we, as the kids call it now, gender swapping, right?
Yes.
But it's like everything that you would want from Sybil Danning with a big gun and Wings Hauser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last Wings Hauser I covered on Bulletproof Action was the TV movie Command 5, which was like ABC's answer to the A-Team.
Oh, right.
Oh, that was glorious. I'll tell you what, for a TV movie, especially like, sometimes those could be no, they went all out on that thing. That's probably why it did become a series, but like, this is going to cost way too much money. But yeah, so many great movies, and just, he did a lot with PM, and I'm sure the new PM Entertainment podcast will likely be covering some Wings Hauser here soon. I would not be shocked if they do it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, when I was on the earlier, the After Movie Diner with John, who's doing the PM podcast, he was on like a Wings kick, and we just talked about like Art of Dying with Kathleen Kinmont, which that's the one, that old article, which I think that article disappeared, unfortunately. That was it Hopes and Fears? Was that the online magazine?
I'm not sure.
But I think the guy's name was Joe Yannick, who did like that kind of oral history of PM. And he interviewed Kinmont, and she talked about doing that love scene in Art of Dying with all the food and everything. And she said it's even crazier than the scene is actually looks, because she was saying how like Wings was freaking out. He wanted like more food, but he also was like angry at the makeup woman because he wanted her to powder his butt more so he could get his ass in the shot more.
Right.
Yeah, he was exactly what him and Lorenzo Lamas, I would say, were exactly what early PM Entertainment needed to kind of get to where they got to, with Daniels and Wilson and everybody.
Yeah, and that's a good tip. Anyone who's going to be showing their butt on film, make sure you got enough powder on it. Right. You don't want that thing shining. You don't want.
No, Wings was a true professional. He understood those kinds of things. I mean, the way Kinmont described him, she was like, he was a Vietnam vet, and he was just all over the place. And I mean, like you said, with the B movie, especially from that late '80s, early '90s period where he was so prevalent. I mean, you could just see him come in with like a sport coat with jeans and like kind of a '90s style or late '80s style button-up shirt with a tie with a big gaudy design that was going to end up in Goodwill in the late '90s. But you'd see him in those outfits. I mean, it was all like a size too small usually, for what he was wearing, and he'd have that slack-jawed look on his face, and he would like drink his beers, and he would say all kinds of lines that were like very like throwbacky, like go into a bar and be ordering a a whiskey with a beer back, or
right.
Somebody's putting the bite on somebody at a film noir he was trying to make. But it all like worked in this Wings Hauser-y kind of way.
Yeah, he was his own man. I mean, you certainly couldn't say he was a refined gentleman. I mean, he was just a everyday guy, and he had the opportunity to be in movies. And yeah, he's the type of guy he could be your neighbor. Like, hey, want to help me fix this car? Sure, come on over. I got some beers. Oh, I'm definitely coming over then. Yeah, he was a great common man for the action world.
He was the neighbor that would fix your car, go over and help you fix your car, but then at like 2 a.m. would be lighting off fireworks, and you'd be like, Wings, I gotta work in the morning, please. And he'd be you'd be afraid to say anything though, because you'd see that you wouldn't know what to do. So it was I guess that was, but I guess for us, right, because we were watching him on TV, watching him through the power of DVD or streaming, or watching him through our TV box. It's almost like the difference between seeing like a lion in the wild, or being at the zoo. Like you don't have to worry about Wings. He's not going to keep you up at 2 a.m. with his fireworks. Unfortunately, whatever his neighbors probably had to deal with, but we didn't have to deal with that part.
He's lighting fireworks, grilling up steaks, just having a good time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Wings is that he would be that kind of neighbor who, in your early 20s, you'd love living next to him, but in your 30s, 40s, as you're sort of trying to establish a career, maybe have kids and all that kind of stuff, there's a certain point, when the wife is kind of like, can you please tell that guy to not light his fireworks off at 2 a.m? Like, no, honey, that's not the person I'm going to confront about lighting off fireworks.
Let's just move, honey. I've been thinking about moving anyway.
Exactly.
He'll probably help load up the van, so come on.
Exactly. Which, that's the other piece too, right? Is that you never know. You with how big he is, he could probably move things really well, but then also too, like, the the bequeathed great aunt's fine china,
Right,
that might
right. Yeah,
get rough
you
treatment.
probably want to take care of that first.
Right.
Put that in a separate load, and he does like the big stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, he can help get your John Deere
Right.
up the ramp and onto the moving truck.
Hmm.
Yeah. And maybe that's the thing I think with Wings. I think for us when we do these kinds of movies, you need personalities like Wings to make them work. Because the budgets certainly aren't going to do it. It takes, inspiration, whether it's a Wings or, stunt director or direct, whatever it is. But Wings was one of those guys that made those movies better.
He did, and again, I think he wasn't like he was a star, but he wasn't like that big star guy. So he was willing to do whatever, and he got down and dirty if he needed to, and had sex scenes with food and he did what he had to do.
Exactly. Which is, it. On the one hand, we're gonna miss him, but on the other hand, I mean, he gave us so much stuff. And like you said, you've got L.A. Bounty. I know I've got a bunch of Wings from the late '80s, early '90s. I mean, so many erotic thrillers he did.
Yeah.
It's so many films, and so I think for people listening, if you haven't really gotten into your Wings, definitely do it. One of the quick stories that I have is that I reviewed his movie, The Carpenter, and it was an anonymous person, but I feel like the way the comment was written, it sounded like it was him. There's like, hey, thanks for sharing all this stuff, and because I have the filter on, or I have like the comment moderation, he commented twice. So the old comment, I only let one of the comments through. So whenever I go to moderate comments on my site, which I don't get many anymore, I always see that, thanks for sharing, great post. And I feel like it's Wings. I'm pretty sure it's Wings. And so that's kind of always going to be there, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. It is nice when you hear from the people in the movies, and that they appreciate that we appreciate them, and because you don't always get that. Sometimes you get nasty grams. But I'm going to believe that it was Wings too.
Yeah. Like you said about the nasty grab, I think it's like, if they know that we're having fun with it, but we're not like, it's like this kind of this. I mean, I think when I first started writing my blog post, I was definitely snarkier, and I would, be a little bit harsher on the movies.
Right.
But I think there's that kind of that line where you enjoy it and you're having fun with it. And then you still respect it. I think that's kind of where we fall with these kinds of movies. Like we get so much enjoyment out of them that it's hard to be like really, down on them, I guess.
Yeah, and I've definitely found too. Like when I started, yeah, I was definitely more critical, more snarky. But now you think about, that was a wonderful time. Those movies exist. Like you don't have those movies anymore, so it's like you appreciate them more, because now it's like you realize we're never going to have those types of movies again. It's long gone in the past.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Maybe it's a good segue for us here as we sort of leave sort of the melancholy of losing Wings. But I hate saying this because this always seems like a flip thing to say, like, oh, he would want us to, carry on. I mean, like, I don't think
Yeah.
Wings would carry the,
Knowing Wings, yeah, he would want us.
Exactly.
Want us to do this show the best damn way we could, and afterwards we should go out and light off fireworks and grill up steaks.
Exactly.
Neighbors be damned. I don't care what the weather is either. We're just gonna go out and do it.
Exactly. It is pouring out here, so yeah. So it's like, too bad, Wings. Like I would have lit some fireworks at 2 a.m. for you, but it's pouring here in Philly, so yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, but yeah, we're going to be talking here about Martial Law 2, Jeff Wincott film with also Cynthia Rothrock and a whole host of other names. We got Evan Lurie, Sherry Rose, Billy Drago.
Yeah, I covered this a million years ago. Had not watched. Still have I believe it was Vinegar Syndrome that did the 2-pack.
Oh yes, yeah.
And still pristine, wrapped, never been touched. I'm like, it's sitting there on my shelf waiting to be. But I'm like, I saw that it was on YouTube, so I just popped it on the YouTube. But I'm like, gee, yeah, it's like there's almost every scene has somebody in it. Like it's somebody. It's not just a no-name actor or somebody you don't know. No, it's like somebody you could recognize from other movies.
Yeah, now, and you were talking about the Vinegar Syndrome double pack. Now, didn't you say on your podcast when you guys were talking about Mission of Justice that was supposed to be the third movie in this series, but they couldn't get Rothrock for it?
That's what I've read. And again, it seems odd because they didn't get Chad McQueen
Right.
for this one, and they carried on. So was it because Rothrock already did two, and they're like, oh well, we can't possibly recast her after doing two movies? I don't know. I don't know the validity to that.
Right, because obviously they wouldn't have understood how DVDs and packaging and stuff like that would work down
Right.
the road. But that's the thing that keeps Mission of Justice out of the, Vinegar Syndrome would have made a 3-pack of these
Oh,
movies.
I
And
know. And I
yeah,
would, and it needs to be on Blu. That one would not have still been sitting wrapped up. That would Mission of Justice comes out on Blu-ray. It comes to my house. It's opened immediately.
because it's another one that's chock full of names. Obviously
Yep.
Wincott. It's kind of crazy to think about that with Wincott, because like you were saying, before we started the episode, it's easy to get through his filmography because he doesn't have a lot of movies. But man, the ones that he has, yeah, you can maybe talk about the Universal Soldier sequels or things like that are a little
Right.
bit off. But for the most part, he's got some absolute classics
Oh,
in this like
yeah.
90s period.
Mission of Justice, Last Man Standing, Open Fire.
Yes.
His Die Hard. Every action hero needs his own Die Hard.
Right.
And by God, Jeff Wincott got his.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. In this movie here, one of the interesting things about this movie that we're going to be talking about, Martial Law 2, it's like you said, he takes over for Chad McQueen. But it's almost like the way that they make the film work. It's like almost as if he and Rothrock are sharing screen time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of an interesting one way that I think for movie makers today who are making low budget direct to video actioners, it's maybe a method that they should look at. It's like, okay, if you get two big names and you occasionally have them sitting on a bench together going over whatever they were doing, during the investigation, but for the most part, you have them in separate scenes, you can kind of get a good amount of work out of both of them. And for us as fans, we don't feel shortchanged like, oh, one person was on the cover, but they're barely in the movie. We get
Right.
enough of both of them because I don't think either of us feel shortchanged about the Rothrock or Wincott we get in this movie.
No, I did have a question.
Yeah.
For you, if you the first Martial Law, like the Rothrock character and Chad McQueen character, they're like lovers, are they not? Am
Right.
I misremembering?
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct. Because it was like in this movie, there's
They're
almost like
just
a
like buds. They're just like,
right,
yeah, we're BFFs.
right, right, exactly. Yeah. It is interesting that they didn't go that way for whatever reason in this one. Maybe it was because of that fact that they must have. There's no trivia on this. There's no background on it. But I wonder if when they were making it, they realized, okay, we're getting Wincott, and from a shooting schedule standpoint, maybe for both of them, they couldn't get them in a lot of scenes together. So they said, okay, let's just have them be buds.
Right. I mean, yeah, because when we'll get in there, but he's talking about other women and their big bazoon. I mean, he's like, like she's not. She's just a coworker, his buddy, his trusted confidant and partner. Has nothing to do with. There's no romance at all.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. I honestly I don't know why they didn't go there. You never know too if Wincott had a situation like Bruce Penhall in Dallas Connection, where his wife got a little bit upset about how steamy the love scene was with Julie K. Smith. If maybe Wincott, or Rothrock, I think she was married at that time because I think she was pregnant for one of the Tiger Claws movies. That's why she's barely in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if maybe somebody had a spouse and was like, hey, let's no love scenes in this movie.
I mean, I suppose that's possible. I mean, that would make sense, but yeah, I don't. That was one of those where I'm like, I'm pretty sure. I mean, am I just misremembering? Do I have a perverse mind and I was doing like fan fiction between Rothrock and Chad McQueen and that didn't really happen?
What do the kids call that? Shipping? Is that what it is?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah. There are piles of like young millennials and Gen Z kids who just love the idea of Blair and Joe from Facts of Life being a couple, which as a kid growing up, but it's funny because I guess as a kid growing up, it's on the one hand, it's like, oh no, you have crushes on them or whatever, you want them to be straight. But then on the other hand, I guess it makes them hotter, doesn't it?
Yeah, that opens up a whole Pandora's box indeed.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, why don't we get stuck in here on Martial Law 2? So our film starts innocuously enough, right? We have some nice music. It's a nice sunny day.
Oh yeah.
The Hollywood sign is there, so we know we're in LA. And looks like it's just a picnic in the park, right? And there's Cynthia Rothrock just working at a food truck, slinging some hot dogs, and everything seems good until suddenly this ominous music starts and a van pulls up, and a wacky assortment of leather vested jeans guys come out, and they don't look like they've got really good intentions on their mind.
No, and we're gonna do some illegal activity in broad daylight,
Right.
just in the middle of the day, by a park where there could be kids. There's you see the playground stuff. I mean, what? This should be done in the dark of night, I would think.
Yes, I agree. Also, did you notice that the bikers, the motorcycle guys that came up and met the van, they brought their accountant with them. I don't know who that bald guy was with the goggles, uh, but I think that their accountant. And then, of course, they're led by Jose Canseco, who makes sure he does the Bash Brothers hello to the guy in the van. I don't know, Chris, late '80s, if you were a fan of the Oakland A's and the Bash Brothers.
I was not. I was not. But yeah, that's Nick Hill.
Yeah,
Was it not Mr. Nicholas Hill,
I think it might have been.
who was in from Fist of Iron? Is what I always remember him from, as Michael Worth's no good friend.
Right. Right. Yeah, he was Jorge instead of Jose.
Mhm.
But I do love that he did the Bash Brothers thing just to let them know, let us know that they know he looked like Jose Canseco the way they had him dressed up.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so as they go into the back of the van and they're making a deal, the chief radios to everybody and says, "Hold your positions, don't go do anything." So when we see Wincott stumbling around as if he's drunk, and maybe a guy who's dealing with housing insecurity, perhaps, when we see that, I don't know what you thought, but I thought he was doing the old cop on the edge, not following orders kind of thing.
No, I didn't think. Well, no, I didn't think that. I just thought he was going into business for himself, and he certainly did.
He certainly did. So he kind of smashes his way. He kind of hangs out near the edge of the van. They're like, "Get out of here, man! What's your problem?" or whatever. I love that one of the criminals has the audacity to tell him to get a job, which I guess that's technically their day job if they're doing drug deals or gun deals in the middle of the day.
Right. Yeah, they might have, well, it was too early. I would say they could be dashers at night, but that didn't exist yet.
Right, exactly. Pizza guys.
That's true. They could be
Yeah,
pizza. Well, Chad McQueen was a pizza guy in the first one.
that's right. That's right. So it's maybe like a throwback, right, to that. Yeah,
Mhm.
we just know we fill in the gaps that these guys were pizza guys. So after a little bit, he as they're trying to get rid of him, he smashes his face up against the window so he can see for sure that yes, that's a whole bunch of drugs there. And then they look ready to take him out, right? They're like, oh, he's seen too much. Which again, like you said, another issue with doing these kinds of things in broad daylight is that yes, maybe the plan is to do everything inside the van, but should somebody get wise to what's going on there, it's hard to take them out in the middle of broad daylight.
Right. Well, yeah, it's guns actually. It's just nothing but like they're preparing for war. I don't know. Maybe they work for Domino's and they're taking out the Pizza Hut guys. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what's going on over there.
right.
But yeah. But yeah, then once they he eventually gets them to come out and they regret that decision quite quickly.
Yeah. And, even though he's fighting a bunch of guys at once, fortunately, before they could potentially overwhelm him with their numbers, Cynthia Rothrock comes from behind her hot dog stand. And
And she drops her wieners and comes on over.
exactly, but not all of them, right? She takes one with her. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think a hot dog because of the kind of the long kind of spearish type shape to it that you could probably deliver some damage depending on how heavy and how meaty the hot dog is.
I mean, if she had them all linked up,
Right, yeah,
if they were still all tied together, she could have used like makeshift hot dog nunchaku.
right, right. I love how a movie like this makes that decision of like, okay, throwing the hot dog at him is not is okay. The hot dog nunchucks, that's like too Naked Gun. We're not going to go there.
It's too ridiculous.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I mean, at this point, these guys get beaten up, they get taken down. The bust is good. Hey, handshakes and back pats all around. Like you said, middle of the day. Fortunately, nobody else was hurt. There's no kids playing soccer or anything that got hurt
Must
by
have been
this.
a school day.
Right, good point. Exactly. So maybe that's what they thought. It's kind of like the idea of like, TV programming on during the day that's meant for like, adults who are
Shut-ins.
home. Yeah, exactly. Like
Right.
Maury, right? You wouldn't
Mhm.
want your 10-year-old watching Maury necessarily, but yeah, or Jerry Springer.
Right.
Yeah. So, but hey, when we've got some really solid police officers undercover, it doesn't matter when you do your gun deal. You're gonna get caught.
Yeah, that's true. Probably was easier to light just shooting it in the middle of the day.
Exactly right. That was probably the decision, right? It's funny, going back to when we did the sweeper episode, we were talking about the car chase with the
Yes.
oxygen tanks, and Spiro Rosatos, when he was on the PM podcast, he talked
yeah.
about it's
About
funny
the
'cause
time change.
exactly, because he asked John, he's like, "Well, did you know what was wrong?" And he's like, "No, I
And
didn't."
I'm pretty sure we pointed that out.
Yes.
I think we did. So I was like, yeah, some of us
Exactly.
noticed.
Right, because I caught it when I watched it, but then I forgot to bring it up, and I think you brought it up while you were like, "Oh, remember?" And I was like, "That's right," and yeah, so it was kind of funny that he did that, that he mentioned it. He was like, "Well, we had to do it at night to make the explosions,
Right.
look better." So yeah, it's funny we noticed it, but we didn't care, which is good.
No, and that's what he said. Like,
Right.
even if you did notice it, you're not going to care. You're not going to be like, well, I'm shutting this movie off.
Right.
Hell no,
Exactly.
you're not going to shut it off with all that action going on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And so that's probably a good point of why these criminals are doing their bad business during the day. Because a lot of the night stuff in this, you're right. A lot of the night stuff happens at the nightclub that we'll be talking about in a little bit.
You need somewhere, a well-lit parking lot or some such thing
Right,
to help
exactly.
out. Otherwise, you're going to have to go get these lights, and that's going to add to your budget. And, they had quite a nice cast of familiar faces. So, the money probably was more tied up in some of these cast members.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the stunt guys they get too later on, because that's the other
Right.
thing is that you look at these guys in that first scene and you think, boy, this is just sort of like a ragtag group of ruffians. This is what we're going to see throughout. And it's like, no, they were keeping their powder dry. They were saving some of the bigger names for later.
And they showed up. They show up in force in this one.
They definitely do. So now I'm trying to remember, is the next scene where we find out about Wincott's promotion? That's not when
Whoa.
Oh, is this the episode, the TV thing about John Sears from 90210?
Before we get to the scene, we have the opening credits.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right.
So that was like a cold open.
That's right.
And then we go to the credits, and there is this music that plays. And this is what it made me think of. And I never saw this show, but it made me think this. It's the Pat Sajak Show.
Right,
Tonight,
yes.
Pat welcomes Robert Wool from Batman,
Right.
Golden Girls Estelle Getty, and Funny Man Gilbert Gottfried.
Yes.
Now, here's your host, Pat Sajak. It was like this weird, oddball, late night talk show music. Right. And I'm like, where did they get this? And it comes back later in a little montage. Like, what is with this late night music?
Yes. No, that's a good point, because we get it. It's like it's that it's or it's like like you said, like the Pat Sajak Show. That's actually the best, because I was in my head I was thinking an 80s sitcom that only lasted a season that took place in New York, and when they're doing the B-roll for the open of shots of New York, of nighttime New York, kind of like Night Court, that kind of thing,
Right.
People hanging around a flaming barrel, people smoking cigarettes outside of a pizza place, and that music's playing. But I like the Pat Sajak Show better.
I got an LA vibe with it. It was like, oh, I'm like, what show would have that? And I'm like, the only thing I think of is, maybe like Pat Sajak. That was around this time. It didn't last long.
No,
I don't know what the theme. That could have been the Pat Sajak theme. I don't know.
Exactly. I remember one episode of the Pat Sajak Show. Actually, I was telling the guys at Comeuppance about this when I was on their show. So it's kind of crazy. This has come up twice in like two podcasts recently. But there was a lunar eclipse that night here in the U.S. And they were making a joke about the fact that they film in the afternoon, but the show takes place at night. So they're trying to kind of maintain that idea that it takes place at night, or they were shooting at night. So somebody in the audience is like, "Hey, Pat, we're missing the lunar eclipse," and he's like, "That's okay. I got an idea. I'll take care of you guys." So he wheels in a refrigerator, and then he has this refrigerator repairman come in and he goes, "Yeah, the problem is at the bottom. It's at the bottom underneath there." So the guy bends over and then he gets the plumber's crack, and Sajak takes like this black piece of paper, it's like a dot, and he moves it in front of the guy's ass. And everybody thought that was hilarious. And I mean, I was like 10 or 11 at the time. It at least was enough that it stuck with me, that I'll never forget that, I guess.
No, thank you for putting that permanent memory in my brain. And I mean, wow, that was some edgy humor, Pat Sajak. No wonder they must have. I don't think it got canceled. I think he got thrown off. He was trying to be a shock jock.
He was too much, while Jay Leno's over there filling for Carson, and talking about, whatever it was he was talking about, George. That would have been before Bush, I think. Because I think the Pat Sajak show, that was before you had like the late night wars, as they called it.
Well, yeah, I think the late night wars is when well, no, because Arsenio was going, and it kind of started with Arsenio and Johnny.
That's right.
And then obviously the Jay and Letterman stuff took over in the 90s, where that was a bit personal between those two. So,
well, in CBS, they had the Sajak show, so I imagine they felt pretty good about themselves when they were able to move up to Letterman.
Right.
Though I think he was canceled even before Letterman got that gig. Yeah.
Because isn't that where like Silk Stockings and that came in?
That's right. Sweating
because
Bullets.
They went with Crime Time, like the Crime Time lineup.
That's right. That's a great point. That was there, and then when that kind of fizzled out,
then when Letterman came in, they had and that's where Silk Stockings found new life on the famous USA Cable Network, which I know we've talked about, and I know we might talk about Silk Stockings on every episode I'm on, and that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I imagine if we look up any of the actors in this movie, we'll see at least one that did a Silk Stockings episode. It just seems like that's
Yeah, you'd have to. Have to.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I mean the music here, of course, is the music in this opening here is very much like Rob Estes and Mitzi Capture walking into Lipschitz's office right at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, Lipschitz! What a fantastic name!
I know. And he had to be from New York, right? It had to be like a transplant living in West Palm Beach. He just, he had to fit the part.
Perfect.
Yeah. Got it. And I guess at this point right now, is this where we get into where
so he gets his promotion? He goes, he sees his boss, Max Thayer.
Yeah.
No Retreat, No Surrender 2.
Yes.
I think Max is a big man, and Jeff Wincott is obviously short, but the disparity is very evident when they're in that scene together.
Yes.
But yeah, he gets the promotion, but finds out that Billy will not be joining him.
Yeah.
Because Max needs her. Of course, then she just goes on vacation, but we'll get there as well. So she really does zero work for Max.
Right. Exactly.
Other than that first scene. So whatever. But yeah, good for you, Sean Cunningham.
Exactly. Get yourself a promotion. He goes over to his new precinct where he's now going to be working. And this might be his best acting job, I think, out of all of his work as an actor, because he finds out that the captain is Billy Drago. And I mean, how do you as an actor not act like this is the smarmiest baddie, worst baddie character ever?
How do you as a viewer take this guy's going to do something wrong. This guy's bad. You have to immediately say, this guy is bad. Then I'm like, they made him the captain? Is this going to be like I know Hero the Terror, he was just the psychiatrist, but he was in there so short, he didn't have a lot of time to turn evil. But that was that's like a big red flag the minute he comes on the screen. But so, yeah, to your point, Jeff Wincott has to know this too, but he just goes with the flow. Yeah. He is a fine, that's the thing about Jeff Wincott, and I've mentioned this before. He was an actor who got into action movies as opposed to an action star who tries to be an actor.
Yeah. And he sells it here, right? He does a good job selling that he thinks his captain is above board.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that he's being Billy Drago. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's I mean, the grease, the sliminess is all there, and he's kind of the way he's moving and everything. You're
Yeah.
just like, oh God. Um, the other thing we find out is his best friend is in this precinct, Borelli, which you these movies also, they just like to have a good Italian name that ends in a vowel, like especially an
Yeah.
I, like that, don't they?
Yeah.
They just want to, you got to have a, so Borelli fits that bill there.
Yeah, they were in the academy together, and here they are reunited. And boy, is Borelli proud of his friend becoming a detective. And he's got the slick back hair. Do you think he used maple syrup to slick that hair back, being from Canada? Uh,
Yeah,
is he wearing the duster at this point or not
he
yet?
is. So he's walking around with, I forgot about that. He's walking around with this coat that is like touching the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like something out of the opening of Renegade.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's a definite interesting look. I also like his Jeep Laredo.
Yes.
I thought to myself, boy, I wish like Hot Wheels would make like a line of like action movie hero vehicles, and I think that Sean Cunningham's Jeep Laredo from Martial Law 2 should be in Series 1. Thank you very much.
Well, we got to talk to Chris, the toy man.
Yeah, that bastard. I got to get him to make some more stuff.
Yes.
He ignores all my requests.
Yeah, yeah. Because this would be a fantastic one. Jeff Wincott with the Jeep, and make sure the Jeep doesn't come with doors or a cover.
Right, or if it does, make it like an add-on, like you have to buy more, like
Right,
the accessory pack.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's a beautiful piece of this too, is that Jeep, which we'll see later on when it comes into play. The funny thing is, when I say it comes into play, it doesn't come into play in the sense of like it's not like a plot point or anything. It just adds atmosphere to this movie that just,
Yeah,
it's different than when your character is driving like a boat of a car,
right.
from scene to scene. A Jeep with no doors on it, and Wincott's there with his duster kind of draped over the edge of the seats, and he's one-handing it on the wheel as well.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he's
And
that
you could
cool.
tell that Spiro Rosato's had nothing to do with this movie because the Jeep is never flipping
Exactly.
or blowing up or any of
Yeah.
that. There's really that's one area that there's not any vehicular mayhem.
No, there's
Shalom.
one kind of vehicular mayhem that we'll get to a little
Yeah,
bit, but
that's true.
it's more like your erotic thriller setup murder vehicular mayhem than it
Mhm.
is action movie vehicular mayhem. So
Right.
it's or like your Perry Mason 90s movie of the week, right?
Right.
Vehicular mayhem. So now with Borelli, Borelli is giving Wincott a tour of the precinct, and he comes across Sergeant Dobbs, who,
Oh yeah.
ooh, I mean, obviously it's pretty obvious to us that Borelli doesn't have a nice opinion of Dobbs, and we definitely don't have a great opinion of him either. He just definitely seems like a smarmy guy.
He does. Yeah, there's definitely some tension between these two, and you can see that Wincott takes note of it, but he's the new guy. He's not going to try to rock the boat too much. He's just happy to be reunited with his boy Borelli. But Borelli doesn't have all the time in the world for his old buddy because he has some business to take care of.
Yeah, and we don't know what this business is, but we have a sense that it has something to do with Dobbs, and
Hmm.
he doesn't want Dobbs to know. But he doesn't trust his friend to tell him yet either. They make plans to get together to see his wife, who we find out later is played by Denise Duff, who. I don't know if am I giving away? I guess I give away too much of Blood Fist 4 if I talk about the regular character in Blood Fist 4. So
A lot of people are going to be angry if you do that.
exactly. You completely wait. She was what? No, I thought she was. Okay, yeah. I'm giving. Yeah, but anyway, but that's
I
who his
thought
wife
she
is.
was the heiress to the beer fortune.
Oh, right, right. The fear. Yeah. That would be amazing if she played in a Simpsons episode, right? And she was like wooing Homer.
Yeah.
As there were, yeah, that or Barney, right? Barney. Yeah. As a quick aside, I remember when I was in high school, our teacher was showing us Mr. Holland's Opus, and we were all making fun of it. We were all just riffing on it the whole time, and the teacher was getting annoyed. And the kid who ended up being our valedictorian, when the son who was deaf started speaking, this kid who, the teacher was just kind of like, well, at least he's not making fun of it. And he goes, why does he sound like Homer's friend from The Simpsons? And that was it. I think it was like Easter weekend. That's why we were watching it, because it was going into Easter. And she was like,
Right.
You people that enjoyed the movie, Happy Easter. The rest of you were a bunch of Philistines. And I just, but I just remember that was like the thing that broke her, was the kid who, was like supposed to be the smart one who never
Right.
did, he's making a joke about the deaf kid sounding like Barney from The Simpsons. Yeah,
Philistines.
Exactly. She called us Philistines, which we just love that. That was like, it's one of those things too, when you're in high school and the teacher says something like that, it just makes it worse, like you're just,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, that's just going aside there. But so after this, when Borelli leaves Wincott and he kind of finishes the tour on his own, I think we get the Johansson, or I keep calling him, Paul Johansson. I keep wanting to call him John Sears from 90210, but we get the Paul Johansson puff piece as Spencer Hamilton.
Yes, and he's like channeling his inner Terry Silver throughout this movie.
Yes.
He's like a poor man's Terry Silver. Yeah, Paul Johansson. Welcome to the movie.
Yeah, and he's doing like a kind of the stick fighting thing with Evan Lurie, and he defeats him, and he tells Evan Lurie, if we were doing this for real, you'd be dead. And then he goes and talks to this woman doing the puff piece. His dad shows up. The dad says, "Oh, he got he's all successful without any of my money," which is the movie's way of saying, yeah, he's a nepo baby.
Right.
But he's got a ponytail, a slick back. We know this guy is not up to any good, because this was the 90s, and millionaires were bad in movies. They were the bad guys. And Johansson's definitely that. But we don't know what he's up to yet. We just know that he's bad.
Right. Nowadays, you have to be a billionaire to be a bad guy. It's
Exactly.
like due to inflation.
Right,
But
exactly.
back then, if you were just a millionaire, you could have assumed that they were a bad guy. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase is a fine example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because back then, you win $1 million in the lottery. Back then, you were set for life. So if you were, nowadays, you win $1 million. It's like, well, I guess you'd be you'd set ish for life, I guess, or you'd be much better off, I guess.
Oh yeah, I'll take it. I'll
Yeah.
take $1 million. Now, get
Yeah.
the house paid off and
Exactly.
put a bunch of what else I could put in the bank, and
Yeah.
I'd at least have a nice safety net. I would
Exactly.
still work, but at least I'd have that safety net. So, if work got to a point where I could just be like, you know what, you bastards, go to hell.
Right.
I don't need you. I'll go find something else.
Yeah, and you could live
And
off for 3 months.
If it took a couple months, who cares? I got plenty. I'd live off the interest.
Yeah, exactly. Invest some of it, Yeah, you definitely, it wouldn't be horrible, but it wouldn't be like, it would be life changing in like a comfortable way, as opposed to life changing in buying a new mansion and
Right.
roles,
Now I'm making action movies
right
in my spare time because I'm just swimming in money.
Right, exactly. But and we actually find out that Paul Johansson is probably just a millionaire. We find that out later because at some point he doesn't have enough money for something. So so which kind of shocked me, because the way that they paint the picture of how rich he is. But you have to bring your brain back to to the 90s and be like, well, it's a different kind of rich in 1991 compared to 2025. Yeah, so he's he they talk about how successful he is and how young he is. He's supposed to be 24 and this very successful guy. Now I'm trying to remember, is the next scene his nightclub, or is the next scene the party at the bar with Wincott celebrating becoming a detective?
It could be.
They can kind of go either way. So
it could go either way.
Yeah, well, we'll do the bar party because that's what establishes that Cynthia Rothrock can be a bartender.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that she also mentioned at some point she mentioned that she was from Scranton, which I think is the legit place she's from.
No, she's from Wilmington, Delaware. Though maybe she moved. Did she move to Scranton? She might have moved to Scranton,
I think
actually.
I think she grew up in Scranton. Yeah, maybe she was born in Wilmington, Delaware, but she's a PA girl. Because she would go and she's got her pizza place and she, and her mom was there when she was still alive. She'd go see her mom.
Right.
I don't stalk her that much on Facebook, people, but she posts like constantly.
She does. She does. Because she mentioned
all
going to
the
see her
time.
mom's great. That actually makes more sense too, because she talked about on the Millionaires Express Blu-ray, one of the interviews she did, she talked about when she was learning martial arts, going to Chinatown to watch those movies, watch Hong Kong movies.
Mhm.
And I didn't think the Chinatown here in Philly was big enough to have its own movie theater. I mean, it may have when she was growing up in the 70s, but I didn't think so. But the New York one makes a lot more sense, that she would be going to the New York Chinatown to watch Hong Kong movies. And Scranton is closer to New York than it is Philly, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, so that just it solves a big mystery for me all this time about where she was watching her Hong Kong movies. But yeah, I mean, we get some banter between her and Wincott. I think Wincott's still getting over the fact that he's a Canadian and he's drinking beer that has the 8 on the right side of the point for the alcohol percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very
I mean, we
true.
see that later when he goes to Paul Johansson's bar. But yeah, I mean, and she seems okay with the fact too that he's detective, she's not there yet, but she's okay with it. Yeah, and then I guess from here, I can't remember, there wasn't really, that was just really there to establish that she can be a bartender, I think, right? That's
Yeah,
kind of
I
the
think that probably happened before he even did that happen even before he went to his new job?
I can't remember, because I thought it was no, because I thought that was like you might be right. It could have been before. You might be right. That might have been right after
Like
he gets
they
detective.
went into the office, found out he got the thing, and then after work that day, before he started his new precinct,
That's right.
they all took him out, or were all out anyway, because that's where they go after work. And then they were like, "Yeah, and yes, we do get the Cynthia Rothrock is a bartender, but she'll be quizzed a bit later on."
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And again, that's going to be another one that dates this movie. Is some of the drinks that she gets quizzed on, which would be great. But now where she's getting quizzed, we're going to see here is Paul Johansson's nightclub, which is playing a pretty sweet New Jack Swing song when we get in
Yeah,
there.
it almost sounds like it's like a real song at the
Right.
beginning,
It
like a,
does.
a, a real song used that very same beginning, and I couldn't
Yes.
place what it was, but I'm like, is it the licensed music? No, of course
Yeah.
not. What the hell am I thinking?
Yes. Right. Because for a second you almost feel like it is. And I mean there's like a woman dancing on the bar. We find out that Paul Johansson's business involves hiring women to be escorts,
Yeah,
but selling them on the fact that they're escorts first by paying their student loans, and
right.
and then like having them just sort of be like like I guess literal escorts, right? Accompaniment to rich people, find out information about them that he can leverage against them later on.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're information gatherers.
yeah,
Yeah. It's, I guess, good work if you can get it. I don't know. Yeah, his whole operation was somewhat mysterious to me. And I watched this movie. I would say that I watched it twice over the last 24 hours or so, because I had found myself. I'm like, I was planning on watching it right before we recorded, so it
yeah,
would be. But then last night I had a little bit of time, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just pop that on and see
yeah.
what's going on. And I still can't really quite figure out his whole business plan. But again, that could be the benefit of being a rich kid. You don't have to worry about making a profit necessarily, at least not right away, or I don't know.
Right, right. Well, that's what people say. People like Jeff Bezos. Right, he could be. He went like years. Amazon wasn't making money for
Right?
years, but he had the luxury of that because he and his the rich people that he knew that were investing, they didn't care that they weren't making any money off of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, not everybody has that luxury, but Paul
No.
Johansson does.
Yeah. Over at Club Syntax.
Syntax, which is a great name for a club because I, I don't know why it would be Club Syntax, but that's just maybe it's a little writer's humor from
Yeah.
the
Sound.
filmmakers.
It's cool. It had an X in it because it was the
Right,
'90s, and it's cool and
right, exactly.
extreme.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean the movie again is playing the New Jack Swing music. I mean, Evan Lurie with his hair,
Oh,
and the suit, with
oh,
the coat.
it,
It's not a suit, right? It's like a mustard colored sport coat with pants.
I think it is a suit.
I guess it is. Yeah.
I got it from the Arsenio Hall collection, and
Right.
it was beautiful. Can we talk about Evan Lurie? Oh, he's not very good in this one. I mean, the physicality, great, but his delivery of those lines.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was like, I'm like, oh, I'm so used to this man being a fantastic thespian. No, but I was really like, wow, he definitely got better down the road. Showed like he had like no personality when he would speak. It was just like a charisma vacuum.
Yeah, and I don't know like what happens here. I mean, you're right. This is only his second movie, actually. Technically, it's his first because he was just a nightclub bouncer in Double Impact.
Double
So
Impact, right?
this is really his first role. So you might be right that he. I mean, I think American Kickboxer too. Is that where he really kind of gets it together?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the one he do one with David Bradley, like
Yes.
Expect No Mercy. Is that the one, or is it? There's another one.
Expect to Die.
Expect to Die. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I don't think that was the Billy Blanks one.
That was exactly.
Expect to Die. Yeah, I thought he was good in that one.
Yeah.
So he obviously got better. But yeah, very, very, the just deadpan delivery of every line sounds exactly the same.
Yeah. It would work if his character wasn't like so prominent in the film.
Right.
But I mean, he's Johansson's right hand man. He's, we've also got Cherie Rose as Bree, who, she's helping out too, but she's not quite to the level that maybe they should have switched it. Maybe they should have had Cherie Rose, not that she's like the greatest actor, but she
had more chops.
Yes. Yeah.
King of the Kickboxers, for heaven's sake.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, which I heard she wasn't a fan of Lauren Avedon on that film.
No, there's definitely some problems there. And then she was in, what was it, Maximum Force with
with
Sam J. Jones and Rusty. What the heck's? Doesn't know. Jason, is it Jason Lively? That's who it is. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, you gotta, that's not we think about it from a trilogy standpoint, or what do they talk about? The kids talk a 3-movie run. That's not too bad.
No.
She also does Guns and Lipstick. Speaking of Wings Hauser, so she's, but that's not too bad there. Maximum Force. Now, granted, she has a lot of movies in between, but she was Deadly Bet. This is only her. She actually does a few movies with
PM.
Yeah.
And,
so,
And I think she's in Blood Brothers as well. No Retreat, No Surrender 3. Brief.
Yes, she is.
She's with she's with Vitaly for a moment there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, she does her share of stuff. And so I think to your point, like, I think Evan Lurie was so new that they should have had his character kind of be, really, to be fair, I like Leo Lee overall.
Yeah.
He's also part of the gang. But you almost feel like Evan Lurie could have done him and Leo Lee's character together and just kind of been there. And Cherie Rose as Bree could have done all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. That's one thing. Johansson has quite an entourage around him.
He does, yes.
And it just gets bigger as time goes on, and with more and more familiar faces in the mix. So
yes, yeah, this is only going to get better as the movie goes on. Now, when the nightclub scene ends, I think we get Wincott to the smooth jazz Pat Sajak show opening score, doing working out at his dojo.
Yeah, well, I think he's training that because that's why they brought him over, or part of the reason why they brought him over to that so he could train them in the martial arts.
That's right.
And they're like, "Oh, this just looks like you're rolling around in pajamas to me." Right. Which one of these moves is going to stop a gun?
Right. We know how that one goes.
I'm skeptical. I'm a doubting Thomas. Yeah.
Now, it looks like those videos, those Steven Seagal, like more recent, like like presentation. Yeah, where it's like all it is just like him somewhere in Russia on a mat with like all these people watching, and he just like all these people show up and he just starts like twisting their arms around and stuff, and everybody cheers as he's like twisting people's arms. And it was kind of like that.
They fall like he just murdered them. Yeah, he's great.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I guess Wincott sells it a little bit better, but like you said, when the guy has the gun, that's the best. When Wincott's just like, okay, yeah, give me 2 seconds, and that I think that's one of those things when you watch a lot of these action movies, you can't wait for that disarm move when
Hmm.
when the baddie has the gun on our hero, you just wait for that slap kind of thing that they do to take the gun away.
Yeah, I mean, martial arts, they're useful. You doubting Thomas, you bastard. Just pay attention. Come in with an open mind, and maybe you'll learn something.
Exactly. Yeah. Which, fortunately for this guy, I think he learned his lesson. He
You
was.
did.
Yeah. I wonder. Like, I guess you're a stunt guy. Like, if you're like a stunt guy in the movie, and you're doing your different stunt parts, and then they say, "Hey, we need someone to be the doubting Thomas." Is that where you're like, "Yeah, all right, I want to be I'll do that part." Because I don't think this guy was. I mean, was he credited? Maybe he wasn't, and we just don't know who he is because he could have been
Yeah,
anybody on the list.
he was one of the no-namers,
Yeah.
if he was. Again, there's a lot. There's obviously there's always going to be some people you don't recognize, but it might seem worse when there are so many that you do recognize.
Right. And I mean, this movie's full of them now. The next scene, I think the next scene is where Borelli gets caught. And this is where we get like a whole party of these names, but also I think this is some of the best bad Lurie we get in the film. Um, so they're kind of working on this big deal that they want to do or whatever it is. I can't even remember what they were talking. Oh, I think there was some informant. I can't remember what they were doing. They were like like you said, we don't really know exactly what Johansson's gig is, like what he's trying to do. But Borelli is in his car taking pictures, and Evan Lurie catches him. And when Evan Lurie's telling him, "Come on, get out of the car," he sounds like an adult talking to a kid who's not used to talking to kids, like a real little kid. He's like,
Hmm.
"Come on, come on, come on," and it's like that. You don't talk to a 3-year-old like that, but it's like that kind of that uncomfortableness.
Yeah, I was uncomfortable watching Evan Lurie act in this movie. I'm not going to lie. But when he does his action, I understood the allure of Lurie. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. That's a great way to put it for sure. Because he does bring that here in a couple scenes. Because right now Johansson essentially tells Borelli like, "Hey, this is it for you." Even though Borelli to the end is like, I'm taking you. Oh, because Dobbs was there. That's
Dobbs
right.
is there. So
That's the whole
yeah,
point. Yeah, he was following Dobbs, and Dobbs was there talking about the payoff or whatever it was that they were going to do. And so he's like, "You're going down, Dobbs." And Dobbs is like, "What? Why would I think I'm going down? You're kind of outnumbered here. You're
right,
outgunned."
right. And then they just force booze down his gullet
Yeah.
after they beat the crap out of him, and they just get him all liquored up, put him in his car, and then they stage a whole drunk driving accident.
Yeah. And like you said, it's very much like uh you know Perry Mason movie of the week kind of thing.
Right.
I think that was actually done in Victim of Desire that Jim Wynorski erotic thriller from, which I only know this because I just reviewed it on the site like a few weeks ago. So it's Shannon Tweed, Julie Strand, but also Wings Hauser. Wings is coming up again. He's but I think it's Jay Richardson that I think I'm giving away the movie because actually I think it's supposed to be Wings and there, but it's not big. Yeah, but yeah, it's a kind of an erotic thriller kind of mystery kind of death. And so the next day, right, Wincott is flying down the LA highway with his jeans and his duster and his no doors on his Jeep. He's listening to some music, smoking a cigarette, I think. Whatever cool things people do when they're driving cars, he's doing all those
Right.
cool things. But he's got the police radio on, and he hears about a death, and that it might be Borelli that's dead. So he shows up at the scene, and I love Dobbs at the scene because Dobbs is already there at the scene while they're looking down the ravine, and Dobbs is essentially just telling him, "Yeah, no foul play here. No, there's no foul." It's like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
fell off the wagon.
yeah.
Oh, he told me he wasn't drinking. Oh, he said Borelli would say a lot of things.
Right, right. Yeah. And then so Wincott's like, "Well, I gotta have a look myself." So he goes down there and he's fishing around and he finds a pack of matches.
Oh yeah, the matchbook.
Oh, yeah.
Do
I
those even exist anymore?
I was going to say, I don't know how many nightclubs, because one, you can't smoke in
Right.
clubs
Because
anymore.
you would think that would encourage smoking, and
Yeah,
if you were a business that was encouraging smoking, oh, you'd
right.
have some people up your ass. I got news for you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the matchbooks themselves exist because you can buy a book of like a
Right.
box of books of matches.
You could use
But
them to do the fireworks at 2 in the morning.
exactly, Wings probably has, though I feel like Wings would have like the long lighter, that he uses
Yeah.
for his grill, and he's just touching
He might
things
just
off.
have a blowtorch.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yes.
But just line them all up. You just got nothing but bottle rockets all lined up, and
Yes.
he just goes,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
shoo, shoo, and I just, oh, come on, Wings.
Yes. Two of
Like a
the.
21 gun salute at 2 o'clock in the damn morning.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like here in Philly, if the Eagles win a game or something. I don't know what reasons they light fireworks off here in Philly, actually, but in here in South Philly, but it could
I
be any.
found that now, obviously the 4th of July.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Oh, good. Yes. But now it's like here where I'm at, it's any patriotic holiday.
Yes.
Memorial Day, we've got them. Labor Day, we've got them. Flag Day, we've got them. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think they do them here for Columbus Day too, because this is the predominantly Italian
right. That would
American
make
community.
sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they do them. Of course, for New Year's, they do.
Yeah. New
Yeah.
Year's. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
even Halloween, they may just
Yeah.
be like, we still got some. We didn't use them all on Labor Day. So
Right.
let's just blow the rest of these off.
Exactly. So you see what Wings
That
started with
keep
this.
a couple. Keep a couple for New Year's Eve, though. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure I'm going to get to the Phantom Fireworks place between now and the holidays.
Right, exactly. Here in Philly, they sell them in the grocery store. The Acme, which I don't know what if you have Acme in the Cleveland area, or if it's like another chain that's owned by the Acme company. I think Albertsons owns Acme, so
Okay. Yeah, we
like
do
an
have some Acmes
you have
around.
Acme, yeah.
Yeah.
So you go to the Acme. It's like in Philly, you can't buy alcohol. Like now, you can finally buy beer at the grocery store, but originally you could only buy beer at a beer store or at a bar. You can actually go to a bar and buy a 6-pack and take it with you. So the grocery store is like, well, what if we just had like a cafe that had a liquor license in it? Could we sell beer? And they're like, I guess you could, yeah. And so they had like seats and stuff. And eventually, like they just decided, I think they just decided like it's all ridiculous and like, okay, just sell the beer. So now they're like, like glorified staff, um, break rooms or something. But it's like you can buy fireworks all over the place. But beer, it was like this huge thing about beer. I guess beer could be more damaging if you get into a car and drive. So maybe it is worse than fireworks. I
That
don't
is
know.
true. That is
Yeah,
true.
yeah. But it's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is like kind of like I don't know. It's this weird mix of like puritanical kind of old values, and then just like we don't really care new values. And they like you can gamble on your phone. You can play like slot machine games on your phone, but you can't buy weed. So it's like it's like
Yeah.
I can go bankrupt in line waiting at CVS, but I can't go in baked if I do that.
No, you don't want
Right.
that. No.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, that's the good old fireworks, the blowtorch and everything. But that's the matches. Yeah, I guess that was a thing. For younger people listening, if you went to a bar, I remember there was a gay bar in Boston called the Ramrod, and we would go in there to get the matches just because we thought it would be funny to show people them. And like when you'd open up the matches, and like I remember going in there, they'd be like, "Oh, you're not 21. You need to get out of here." And be like, "We just want some matches." Like, "Oh, okay. Well, here you can have some matches." It was like again like that idea right in the
Yeah,
90s.
we're
It was
just
like
gonna go burn something down. Oh,
right,
well, by all means.
exactly,
Here's some
exactly.
matches. We've got some kerosene in the back as well, if that might
Right,
help you.
right, exactly. But you can't drink here, and you can't
Yeah,
stay here
you
because
can't drink. Yeah, get
right,
out of here.
right.
We'll
But
lose
take
our
the
liquor
matches, the kerosene.
license.
Right,
We'll lose our liquor
exactly.
license if you're in here.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing because they would lose their liquor license if you drank there and then got into a car accident, right? And hurt. But if you took their matches and their kerosene, if they gave you kerosene too, and you burnt a house down, they wouldn't get in trouble for that.
No, not at all.
No, yeah, the law's funny like that.
Mm,
But
loopholes.
Yeah. But as Wincott's looking, Dobbs shows up, and it's almost like that kind of like that creepy like effect that you'd see in a TV show where someone was like a creepy person who just appears suddenly. It's like Dobbs just appears like, hey, so no foul play here, right? This is all pretty much by the book. We don't see any foul play. And Wincott's like, well, I better hide these matches here if
Yeah.
Mister doesn't see any foul play. And so he's like, yeah, you're right. No foul play. Too bad. Shame about Dobbs. And that's that. And then I'm trying to remember, does the funeral happen before he goes to the nightclub? And he's like, I'm gonna figure. I think he goes to the
No,
nightclub
I
first,
think he
right?
goes to because no, he goes like that very night to the nightclub.
Yeah, because he figures out what club syntax is, and he wants to go and ask around.
So he goes there. He is not welcome there.
No,
He
no.
orders a beer. He asks about Borelli to the bartender. George, I believe, was his name.
Yeah,
And 2 seconds later, here comes Tanner, aka Evan Lurie,
yeah,
to shoosh him out.
Yeah.
Get out.
right.
You have an exclusive clientele, and it doesn't involve you, sir.
That's right. We don't allow any Canadians in this establishment. No, we don't. They don't want anybody complaining about the fact that the beer doesn't have a high enough alcohol content.
Right.
Yeah, no Labatt's Blue. You don't have a Labatt's Blue in this place. Though it's funny because this movie, I think, covers all of the American, like, cause I think he gets a Michelob Light while he's there, based on the bottle shape, and then he drinks a Budweiser later when he's with Rothrock and he's telling him. So I think they kind of run the game. I don't know if they had a Bush at somewhere, with Coors. I don't know if they had a Coors
because
in there.
club syntax, they need the
Right.
champagne of beers.
Right, exactly.
Where when him and Rothrock go out, they're just going to a good old place where you got the Budweiser.
Exactly. Though I think there was like a Michelob like lampshade. Like those stained glass lampshade things that would be over the pool table. Yeah, I think there was a Michelob in the bar that they get the Budweiser. So it's almost like they're just getting all the beers out of the way. Just like just selling all of them. I don't know if he has a Rolling Rock at some point. That would have been a good thing if at a Rolling Rock.
That's a Pennsylvania thing.
Yeah, yeah. Is it the Rolling Rock? Is it out?
I think it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was my grandpa's favorite. He would have it. We had it here in Cleveland as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I know the big beer here is Yinling. That's like the
right. That one too. Yes,
they have the plant.
That one just like arrived here and like not probably within the last 10, 15 years. Like we didn't have Yingling here, and then it was like a big deal when we finally they started selling it here in Ohio.
Yeah, I think we didn't have it in New England either. I think it was just here in Philly. And like here in Philly, if you order a lager, that's what you're getting as a Yinling. So that's what they give you. So that's what they call it here. But yeah, I think even New England, they have it now, but they didn't have it back then. So what's the Pittsburgh one? Iron City? Is that the?
Yeah, I believe so. That would make sense.
Yeah, so that's maybe, I don't know if there's a competing thing, like there's the Sheetz Wawa thing here in Pennsylvania between, I don't know if there's a Iron City Yinling thing going on too.
Could be.
Yeah, all kinds of things. The one that I noticed here is that when the Eagles win the Super Bowl, suddenly there aren't as many Pittsburgh Steelers jerseys. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, because most of Pennsylvania is Steelers country. It's only like kind of like the very local Philly area. If you look at those maps that they show with like I guess for Ohio, it would probably be like the top half would be Cleveland, the bottom half would be Cincy. When they show those maps of like what the local fan base is, the Eagles have like this little corner of Pennsylvania, and then the rest of it is all Steelers.
There's a lot of Steelers here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just because people, I don't know, some of it just probably to be contrarians, and some of it because at least the Steelers are probably a little bit more likely to win something than the Browns, and they just have given up and they just defected. I mean, and then you got places like Youngstown, which is like right closer to PA than it is to Cleveland anyway. So that kind of makes a little bit more sense. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. My friend grew up in Cleveland. He told this story about when actually, he didn't tell the story. His mom told the story because I think he was a little young for it. But there was a game where the Browns beat the Steelers when they had Mark Malone as the quarterback. And I guess like a couple friends of theirs that lived nearby that were younger, well, they would have been younger at the time. They grabbed shoe polish and they wrote all over their car. I was like some kind of small, like not a bug, but like maybe a la car or something like that, or something like those, like Gremlin. And they wrote like, fuck the Steelers, fuck Mark Malone, all this stuff. And they were driving around with this car, and I guess this radio station saw them and stopped them and like, talked to, like gave them a bunch of records and talked about how great it was, whatever, and put them on the air or whatever. It was like a whole thing. And so it is kind of funny to think about, like, them doing that, but then like there's some like a pocket, pocket of people watching it with their Steelers jerseys, like shaking their fists at them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. I guess same thing. I guess what would happen here. The Steelers haven't won since I've lived down here, so I haven't experienced that. I think their last championship was 2010, I think. So it was a few years before I came down here.
Well, they may ask you to leave, or you might be cursing them.
Well, no, because the Eagles have won twice since I've been down.
That's true. So the Eagles fans would keep you on board.
Yes, it's the Steelers transplants.
Steelers try to run you out. They'll be like, "No, we need this guy."
Right, exactly. Right. I'm good or bad either way. Right. Yeah. So I mean, they don't want to hear that the Patriots have won 3 since I've been down here. But yeah, I won't. Yeah. The one thing they try to get me with, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but they'll try to get me with the fact that the Patriots cheated. I'm like, yeah, I mean, they did. Yes,
they got away with it.
Right, exactly. Well, exactly. The NFL counts them as championships, but I'm not like, it's not like I cheated. I'm not sitting there saying like the Patriots championships make me a better person. They don't. They did.
No.
They didn't, right. They have nothing to do with my life. I just, watched the games and had fun watching the games. But yes, I can understand if you were the team that they cheated against, like the Eagles in 2004, I can understand why you wouldn't be happy.
You could have people right now. Maybe some people here in my town, they may be bidding for you to come live in their town, because obviously where you go, championships go.
Right. The Eagles have won 2. Yeah. Well, for the football team, because the other teams haven't won. So, but yeah, Cleveland, they could be thinking about, wow, can we get Matt here? Yeah.
Get them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll try it. Even if you just lived here during football season, and then you can go back to, have a beautiful winter home in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
God.
Now, I think it was
maybe right on the lake. That'd be beautiful for you. You would love it.
The lake. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely love it.
Well, see, what I want to be, because my bigger sport is baseball, so I'd have to be going. I guess you don't call it the Jake anymore, right? It's no longer the Jake.
No, it's
but
Progressive Field. Yeah,
the Prague. Did they? I guess.
I don't know if they call it that. They might. I don't think so. I've never heard it.
Right, exactly. But yeah, people might be listening. They might be pushing. For people that have had the drought, right? Detroit might be calling me too. Yeah, they could. I haven't really taken credit enough for the fact that the Eagles have won 2 championships. My wife doesn't want to hear it necessarily. She doesn't really believe it. Because again, I have Patriots stuff, which she won't let me wear out of the house. So I guess that's the other thing too, right? In Cleveland, I wouldn't wear my Patriots stuff out either. Probably.
No, probably not.
No, exactly. Well, we gotta bury the lead on our fight here. We have a Wincott Evan Lurie fight here. And this is, like, we talk about Evan Lurie's acting ability. The one thing that he knows how to do is put in a ponytail.
Yeah. He does, and it stays put, and he kicks some ass. He's the man in this movie. The right-hand man. He's the big man of the establishment there. And yeah, I think Johansson's trying to like be him in some ways with the ponytail and everything. Like, he probably is envious of his boy Tanner.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I wish I could be Jack like Tanner.
Yes.
Oh, I can't be Jack like him, but I could have the same hair as him.
Right. Or I can employ him, right? I can be his boss. So I can pretend that I'm better than him and say things like, you would have died there. But deep down, right, he wants to be Evan Lurie.
Right. He does.
Now, Wincott does. Now, one of the things I got to say about this fight, I don't know what you thought about this, but this felt like the gruntiest fight I'd seen in a while between the two of them. They're just kind of like, back and forth. I mean, part of it is they're landing a lot of blows, but it was very grunty.
Yeah, definitely a lot of grunts and growls and very vocal. A very vocal fight.
Yeah. Now Wincott almost gets the upper hand, but then Sherry Rose, and I don't like Cherie. I think it's Sherry,
Yeah.
or Sherry Allah. She could be no, but it's Sherry Rose. So she comes in and she helps out, and they do the classic kick through the door technique,
Beautiful.
which then goes into a classic Beverly Hills Cop. Wait, you're arresting me? I got kicked through the door, aka I got thrown through the window, and you're arresting me. But they arrest him, and then he gets a tongue lashing by Billy Drago the next day.
He does.
Yeah.
Not happy. Luckily, I guess they didn't press charges after all, and what? So yeah, he's in trouble with the new boss because he was told not to go into this case. That wait for the coroner, and well,
Yeah.
you can't tell. You can't tell that was his boy Borelli.
Yeah. No. With a cop on the edge, the whole waiting and red tape and all of those kinds of things, it's not going to work. It's like oil and water, right? They don't mix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now we get the funeral. We get the service for Borelli. That's where we meet Denise Duff, who's there, who again, star of Blood Fist 4, and she's there sitting, with Wincott and company, and they do the multiple gun salute, which is good, and they, everybody's upset. Of course, they pay their respects. They fold the flag, all the kind of things that you'd want at a service like this. So it's a very beautiful service for sure. And then back at his house, and Wincott, of course, the other thing too is that Wincott, he doesn't just have his hair all over the place for a funeral like this. He's got the little tiny ponytail in the back with the like you said, the maple syrup slick back going on. And he tells Denise Duff, he's like, listen, while you're making me a coffee and everything, listen, I'm gonna find out who did this. I'm gonna catch those sons of bitches. And she's like, okay, all right, I trust you.
Yeah, she wasn't as grieving of a widow as you would expect her to be.
No. I do wonder if she was going to. There was a part of me that thought maybe because of how not grieving she was. I mean, she's also very like rubbing shoulders and things like that. I thought maybe they were going to pull the old switcheroo routine, where the husband dies, our main hero sneaks in and becomes the love interest, and we were going to get some love scenes, but they don't go that way. This is it for Denise Duff. This is her one scene in the movie.
Yeah, especially since it had been some time since Borelli and Cunningham hung out together, so it's I remember used to be around all the time.
Yeah,
maybe you could be around all the time. Like, oh yeah. It's probably for the best because that puts our hero in a bad light.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't go that route, but we get Rothrock. I think the next scene, right, is when Rothrock is about to go on vacation, and I think it's that, because I think the thing with the with Evan Lurie fighting the two boxers comes a little bit after, or they all kind of happen around the same time. But we get Rothrock. I mean, this is LA. You can't just go shopping at night and expect to not have anything happen to you. And as she's walking around the corner with her bags, a trio of ne'er-do-wells creep around the corner, and not a good idea on their part. They probably should not have done this, but hey, we needed to get a fight scene with Rothrock.
I was gonna say this scene is totally just like, we hired Cynthia Rothrock. Right. My God, she's gonna fight.
Exactly. Yeah. Was it Rage and Honor where they get that scene out right away where she's like going to the ATM? And it's like every other ATM scene to that point was usually in a sitcom where somebody like got their hand stuck or something and like a whole bunch of bills came flying out. So this was like, I think that was the first time that an ATM was used in a movie that didn't involve it like malfunctioning and spitting a bunch of dollars out. It was just establishing that Rothrock could fight. This isn't as much fun as the ATM scene in Rage and Honor, but it does what you needed to do. I
am starting to think that I might have to start a list of world's most dangerous ATMs now that you brought that up. Right. I'm going to put that down on my list here.
Well, because we got one other. What was the ATM and sweepers dangerous?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. That was the other one I was thinking of.
Oh, that's the other one you're thinking of. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's a good point, because I just think like I was like recently the episode of Alice, or maybe it wasn't recently. I don't know when there was an episode of Alice, where Mel gets his hand caught in the ATM, and it was like this fancy new technology in the 70s, right? That you can, put a card into a machine and you can take money out, and it's like, well, of course it's going to malfunction somehow and spit money out, and so that's never happened to
You
me.
would bring up Alice. Oh my God. I recently had a breakdancing themed movie night,
Uh,
but the problem was I've already watched Breakin' and
right.
Breakin'
Yeah.
2 and Beat Street, and those are the ones you'd want to watch. I found other ones. Breaking Through with Ben Vereen. It was a Disney Channel movie in the 80s. Body Rock with
Oh yes,
Mr.
Body
Lorenzo
Rock I've reviewed on
Lamas.
the site. Yep, with Llamas I've done that
Which
one.
that was like the one I was really excited. I'm like, oh, I've heard about this Body Rock forever. I think when you go to Lorenzo's IMDb page, it's like he's known for Body Rock, and
Right.
like why? I'm like, it must be something really good. It wasn't. And then there was also the movie called Wild Style, which was really more graffiti, but there was like breakdancing in there. But then I'm like, you know what? I saw a little clip on Instagram of Vic Tayback breakdancing with Rerun from an episode of Alice. So I like, oh, is Alice available for streaming? And you had to buy, but I had like Prime credit, so for
Oh,
33
nice.
cents, I bought the episode of Footloose Mel, I think is the name of this. What an awful show Alice was.
Yes. It was it like so they used to play it on one of the retro channels here in
Yeah.
Philly, and we used to watch it on Sunday afternoons. And it's like when you watch the first season, it's like, oh, this is a funny show. This kind of,
Yeah.
and how that show lasted, what it was like 6 or 7 seasons?
Yeah, it was a while because the one I which was from the very end. Flo was long gone, so
Right, right.
once Flo left, they should have probably just shut things down. But yeah, I remember watching the reruns of it because like the local UHF channel, it was among the lineup there for the longest time, and when you have three channels or four channels to choose from, at 6 o'clock, it's news on all the networks. So as a kid, I had no interest in watching the news. I don't even have interest in watching the news today. So
Right.
I would sit there and I would watch whatever the sitcoms were. I would love when Sanford and Son comes on, but
Yeah.
along with the Sanford and Son, sometimes you had to watch Alice too.
Yeah.
But like you said, early on, I think I was like, all right, but I don't think I caught those later seasons, and for good reason.
Yeah, it's one of those things like we were watching, my wife and I were watching some of those later ones, and we were just like, how is this show on the air? It's like when you watch the late seasons of Happy Days. And, I've talked about this before that the whole Jumping the Shark is actually in the middle of Happy Days' run. Like they
Mhm.
went on for another 5 seasons, but like 5 seasons where they were like the number one show in
Yeah.
America. And you're just like, what is going on? Fonzie's like living with a single mother, and Ted McGinley is there. I guess that was the other thing. I guess Alice didn't have its Ted McGinley moment like
Yeah.
every
I
other
wish Ted
sitcom.
would have shown up over there. Um,
Right?
that goes also back to cable TV was not widespread yet.
Yeah.
So, it was easier the pie was not being split up as much of
Right.
ratings. So shows like that could survive because especially if like the other networks had like some kind of drama on there, somebody might be
Yeah.
like, I don't want to watch that. Uh, you know, I want to watch something funny. I guess Alice is kind of funny. I'll turn that on. I don't know.
Right. Right. Or it's like you remembered it 5 years ago and it's like, oh, this is still on. Okay, this could be good. And then you watch it and you're like, boy, this is horrible. But it's like, hey, the Nielsen's jumped up because enough Americans were like, wow, this is horrible. And then they never
Yeah.
can, and then like you said, like maybe like a few weeks later, you forget how horrible that one. Well, maybe that was just a bad episode. Let me try
Right.
another one. You're like, no, this is really bad. Like, why are we doing this? Yeah. And so yeah, I think the other things, I think Linda Lavin ran off all the flows. I think she ran off the first flow and then they had a fill-in flow and then a third, I think the third flow was the flow from the Scorsese movie that the show was based off of. So,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. I guess maybe a segue here, right, is that one of the things that cable took away some of the pie from was movies like this, right? It was like that was what made it so we don't have as many bad sitcoms, I guess, that last as long because people could turn on Martial Law
Right. They
2.
could turn on Cinemax and watch Martial Law 2 Undercover
Exactly, with Jeff Wincott.
instead of watching reruns of these same stupid sitcoms. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Now after she dispatches of these guys, I think this there's again it's like a few different things going. I think we get the training montage. But I think there's no, I think there's another training montage that comes later. I think this next scene is the thing at the nightclub where Johansson goes back to this fight promoter guy that he had one of his young women speak
Mhm.
to and get some info on, and finds out that this guy likes to gamble. And so he takes him out back and says, "Hey, Mr. Fight Promoter, so you get your two fighters here. If your two guys can beat my guy, I buy your fight promotion business for $10 million."
Right.
Um,
Which is a 50% discount.
Right, exactly. Which this is where the movie gets weird in terms of the money thing, right? Because you think like Johansson's good for $10 million, right? He could probably
Right.
pay for that pretty easy. And then if he loses, that guy gets his club. That's the deal. So the club is on the line. So we get Evan Lurie. So this is again great ponytail sequence, right? He kind of just shakes his hair and then has like the rubber band and just kind of pulls it back nice and easy.
Pops
While the
the
two,
shirt off too. That's an
right,
important part here. More
yeah,
important the fight, the less clothes you should be wearing. That's the
exactly.
Jean-Claude Van Damme rule.
Exactly, exactly. Though they never really worked on the jeans. I think for the actual sequences they had fake jeans, right? They had like these like, extendo jeans. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 90s jeans were not meant for action heroes. They just weren't meant for at least for actually being an actual hero. And I guess for the scenes where you're not doing action, they're perfect. But if you actually were being an action hero in those jeans, they weren't good.
Right.
Probably why they invented like wide leg jeans later on, is they were like, guys like Van Damme were complaining about it. I guess yeah, they're like, we get something with more room in it, but yeah. So Lori, they're fighting. It's kind of like an underground thing, but it's really just this small group here watching it. And one of the things I noticed about this fight sequence is that, and I think the fight choreographer in this movie, it's his first time as fight choreographer. And one of the things I noticed is that the two big muscle-bound boxer guys, they don't really use their numerical advantage over Laurie. They kind of
No.
just take turns against him.
Yeah, that's classic, like usually bad guy behavior when you're going against the hero. Like we'll each take our turn coming at you as opposed to
Yeah,
just swarming you at one time.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, they did not, and this was impromptu, but you would think that they've probably been in situations like this before as bodyguards, but apparently not.
no. And Laurie dispatches them. Now there are some moments where it looks like these guys might get the upper hand, but Laurie's he can take a punch even from these big guys. And he defeats both of them. They're knocked out, and we think, okay, that's it. But one of them decides he wants a little bit more. He's not giving up so easily, and that was not a smart move on his part. I think Laurie, does he kill him with an uppercut? Is that what it was that
I
he?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals where he knocks him down. They do the eyes open technique, which I wasn't expecting that, and then of course the checking of the pulse, which again, I guess for movie's sake, it's a quick check. I think real life it would take a little time. I don't know. I don't know if I can even find my own pulse that quickly as they find it in these movies. But it's two fingers, you're down there and you got it. And that's when the fight promoter guy says, "Okay, you got what does he say? 2 weeks? It is. There's five
I believe,
days.
yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there's definitely a time frame there. And yeah, the fight coordinator was Jeff Pruitt, who was also the stunt coordinator in Mission of Justice and also played Sal in Mission of Justice.
that's right. Because he works with Wincott, I think, on a few, and I think it's when he gets to Mission of Justice, he seems to do like it because that movie, I think, fight choreography wise, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think Mission of Justice is a little bit. I mean, especially that iconic scene where he throws the batons into the middle of the gauntlet of
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
There's nothing quite like that here.
I mean, yeah, Mission of Justice with the gauntlet scene and that garage fight. I mean,
Yeah,
those are, and I had forgotten about the garage fight
yeah,
when we covered it. The gauntlet is like iconic for that movie, but I'm like, man, that garage fight was something special too.
yeah, yeah. It's just really great stuff. Yeah. So this movie doesn't have quite anything at that level, but we got
No,
so many names here, and so at this point, Wincott decides we got to figure out a way to get into this organization. So he calls Rothrock. He goes, meets her at the bar, and says, "Hey, I know you're on vacation. I don't know if you had any plans. If it was like more of a staycation kind of thing. I don't think that word existed back in
No,
1991. I don't. Nobody said staycation, but you know, basic premise of a staycation. Whatever it is. But Rothrock's like, hey, whatever we can do for Borelli, I'm here. And so she agrees to go undercover, and so she does. She goes undercover at the Club Syntax, and this is where we get that great like quiz sequence where she shows up. The bartender's there. She's like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a job." He's like, "Really? Okay, tell me how to make a Mai Tai." And he's like, Okay, what was another one like a Harvey Wallbanger? Was that
Long
one?
Island iced tea.
Yeah, yeah, the Long Island iced tea, right? That was new at that time, wasn't that a new drink in?
Oh yeah, it was all the rage.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the fact that she knew a Long Island iced tea, and then what was the one? Was it the Cookie Monster? Was
Cookie
that
Monster, which I've never heard of such a thing.
right? Exactly. My friend went to bartending school, and he was saying that like these names for drinks that like you can kind of like they're kind of like a code because we were watching Ski School 2 of all movies, right, where they're at the bar and somebody orders an uncomfortable screw against the wall, and he was saying how it's like a screwdriver like with a Harvey Wallbanger, and like I don't know what the uncomfortable part would be, but that like when
Prune
somebody
juice.
right, maybe that's what it is when he yes. Right, that definitely would be a level of discomfort when you drink with fruit juice. So yeah, but I don't know. Cookie Monster is kind of a similar thing. I don't know. Or maybe one of the people making the movie was at spring break that year, found out that like what was it, Senior Frog or whatever? I don't know what the places were at that time. Daytona Beach, yeah, whatever it was. With I was trying to think. That was before Pauly Shore, I think, 91. We're like Kevin Seal at spring break.
Yeah, I'm not remembering, but yeah, I think it would have been before, a little
Yeah.
bit before Pauly Shore.
Yeah, good old MTV Spring Break. But yeah, she gets the job. But Evan Lurie comes in and busts the bartender's chops. He's like, What? Work a little too hard for you? What's going on here?" And he's like, "Well, things are getting busy. I could use another pit. Really? Okay, well, all right, I guess, and then he kind of relents a little bit, but I guess maybe it's one of those things where he's got a proof that he's a jerk boss or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Where
but
have
she
you worked before?
right, that's right. I forgot about that. Downtown.
Downtown, here and there, downtown mostly. No place as nice as this. I could get you references. No, that's okay. You could start. We'll try you out tonight. If it
Yeah.
works out, then we'll keep you. George, show her around.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. End scene. Lori's out. Yeah, that's just yeah. And I mean, you do kind of wonder with Rothrock if maybe those were the scenes where she was like, maybe I've got other things to do when the third movie comes up. I don't know. Um, but yeah, she starts that night and she's got her bandana and she's making drinks. And so we'd met Tiffany before this. So Tiffany is one of Johansson's women. She's a little bit feisty, we know, but we also know that
Oh
she's worked
yeah.
with him for a long time. She wants to get out and she really can't. And Rothrock starts talking to her, and Johansson's like, "No, we're not doing that. You're not." She was a little drunk, and so it's kind of one of those things too where people are telling Rothrock, hey, uh, what do they say to her, like don't ask questions, whatever, that kind of thing. um,
Hmm.
but while we're learning about Tiffany, Wincott is doing some work of his own, and he finds out that Borelli was on a case that involved Tiffany as well, and that for some reason that case disappeared. We get that whole scene of him down at the records room, and the guy is there, like, "Oh, I don't have any cases with Tiffany. I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, really, what would maybe it would be under this or be under that? No, it's not under any of these things. And so, I think they looked it up on the computer first and couldn't find it. It's like maybe there's a hard copy, because you got to use that term hard copy to describe the paper version, but no, no hard copy either. So I'm trying to think now. I think this isn't the bench meeting, right? Is this when they do the dojo meeting where they kind of debrief each other?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a meeting for again. They don't have a romantic relationship, so it's not that kind of debriefing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe that is where they kind of have their little like, oh, we're just working out, but
Yeah.
really they're talking, they're chatting it up about what
Yeah.
she's seen so far, and what's going on, and she'll continue doing her thing, and our man will continue doing his.
Yeah, and I think this is where they find out that Tiffany is a common name, right? That okay, you know,
Mhm.
Rothrock, find out what you can find out about Tiffany while I kind of do some more digging. And then we find out from Johansson and his crew that they don't have the money, and they're shaking down this guy that Tiffany knew um, to get information about an upcoming drug bust. And the guy's not forthcoming. So, is it Lurie that breaks his arm? I think it's Lurie, right? It's not Leo
Yeah,
Lee that breaks it. Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. And they're about to break the other one, and the guy's like, no, no, I'll tell you. And so, then they're like, well, should we kill him? Because no, we don't need to kill him. He'll be fine or whatever. And so, he tells him about the drug bust. And so then Johansson goes to Billy Drago, and this is where we find out that Drago is not on the up and up. He tells Drago, hey, you got to get the money. I'll tell you about the drug bust so you can do the bust, but I need the money. So we've got a $10 million drug bust going on here.
How
Seems
convenient.
exactly. You need 10 million. There's the 10 million. It's almost like a video game, right? Where like the exact thing you need is like in another level.
This was a moment of relief when Drago was pulled into this, because it's like, yes, now okay, because when you're like, movie, are you trying to tell me that this man is a good guy? Movie.
Yeah.
I've got precedent here that says he's not. All right, and just
Right.
look at him.
Right. Exactly.
But, yeah. So it's like, okay, now this makes sense. That he is a good guy, but he's obviously found himself on the wrong side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's into it. And so he tells Johansson, though, he tells him where he can stick it. He's like, you know what? I can't do this for you. It's too much money. $10 million can't just go missing. I'm not going to do it. Johansson's like, no, you're going to do it for me, but I'll figure out how to make you do it, which happens later. But before that, Rothrock is at the nightclub, and a guy is getting a little handsy with Tiffany. And I was trying to think what TV dad this guy was, who was getting handsy with he was definitely a TV dad of some sort who is in this nightclub getting handsy with her. And Rothrock comes out and is like, nope, we're gonna stop that. That's not going to happen.
I did not recognize him.
No, I don't know. I don't know I don't think he actually is a person, but he looked like
gotcha.
there's like there's like a TV dad that he was I should say similar to. Yeah, he's very similar to a certain TV dad. So yeah, I went to look it up on IMDb, and suddenly a huge ad for Snow White popped up. That's yeah. If only people if there should be like an IMDb for podcasters, right? That like
they
doesn't
would
have
probably
any of that stuff.
tell you that you'd have to get the IMDb Pro. I don't know if that has ads on it. I would hope not.
Yeah.
If you're paying for it. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah.
They'll say, you want that? Sign up for Pro.
Right. Yeah. I could, it would be interesting though if I don't know, like if it was like $2 a month or something. Like I don't know what the number would have to be for it to be considered okay. Because I guess if you're a podcast, you'd need to be, if it was like $5 a month, that still would be a lot of money. That'd be like what, $60 a year.
$60 a year.
Just not have ads while you're recording podcasts.
Right. And just to find out who the TV dad lookalike was.
Right, exactly. Which there's no way.
Literally no one else in the world cares about.
Right. Exactly. But this endears Cynthia Rothrock to Tiffany. So they go out for coffee after, and on their way out, this TV dad looking guy, he has a couple of thugs with him, a couple of guys with him, and they decide, hey, you know what, Tiffany and Ms. Rothrock, you said no the first time, but now we're going to get you back. And this is more great. Again, it also, yes, it does have a plot point in the fact that it tells Tiffany who Rothrock is, that she can fight, all those kind of things. Maybe even makes her want to trust her more. But really, it is again just like we haven't had a scene where Cynthia Rothrock has fought in a while, have we?
Right. It's definitely not a scene where somebody tries to use the old club against her.
I was gonna say, so we get.
I don't think we've ever seen a movie where somebody tried to use the club as a weapon.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's funny. Recently, somebody was saying here in Philly that people should use the club because I guess like I don't know if it's like Honda car or Hyundai's or there's certain cars that apparently the steering wheels are worth something, and so they're like you should get a club. It's the best way to protect your car. But yeah, I mean, after she takes out his two friends, this TV dad guy goes to his car and pulls his club out. And Rothrock's like, what are you going to do with that? I'm Cynthia Rothrock. Like, I don't,
Mhm. And she had a
but
bat. She still had a
right.
bat.
Yes, exactly. She's like swinging the bat around and everything. And he's just like, maybe the club's not a good idea here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. But
shame.
exactly. What would have been great is if they'd had a scene after that where his car was stolen because he'd taken the club off,
That would have been perfect.
Yeah, but we never see that guy again. But what Rothrock does here with this move, and this is kind of what happens, right, with a lot of these undercover movies, is that like they sort of slowly become, more and more friendly with the baddies. And in this case, Johansson's like, hey, you can handle yourself pretty well in a fight. And he says something like, I like my staff to be able to handle themselves or something. And he's like, I need someone to do some other work for me. Do you think you could, you know, do like security? And she's like, well, what does it pay? And he's like, more than this or something like that, right?
Right.
So yes.
Promotion. Days
Yeah,
in, she's getting a promotion.
yeah. It's when
Tanner
you
didn't even want to put her on to begin with. He had an attitude about it.
yes, yeah, that would have come up in Tanner's performance review, I think, right?
Like, yeah, as part of my middle management, you are supposed to recognize talent that we could elevate.
Exactly. You had, there was lateral feedback from George saying that you didn't want to hire Cynthia Rothrock. It's like that George,
Mhm.
that bastard. Or maybe it's not George specifically. Like, well, I heard from one of your coworkers that you actually didn't want to hire Ms. Rothrock, and he's like, well, that was George, wasn't it? Oh, that's Sunny. No, no, it wasn't George. I'm just saying, yeah, and so I don't know if that would affect his raise, but and I feel like Evan Lurie's not someone who takes feedback well. I don't know.
No, I don't think so. At least not in this movie.
No, yeah, the character of Tanner is not taking feedback well. But
Right. Right.
we now have our location for where this is going to happen. The thing is, though, Johansson's a little bit worried about Wincott, who's still like sticking his nose in places that it doesn't belong. He also thinks Dobbs might be the reason why this is happening because Dobbs is sloppy, and he's not a fan of that either. But he decides, let's figure out a way to get this Wincott guy out of the picture. And you know, thinking of most dangerous bars, right? Where else would you have something like this happen? But hey, a tip gets called in. Hey, Mr. Wincott, we got in some information for you here. Go to this bar. And he does. He goes to the bar. And he realizes right away when he gets his American beer with the lower alcohol content that things are not what they seem, and it's a whole bunch of bikers there.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Wincott, he'd probably be dead. And
You're
it would
right.
Johansson, he just, it was a smart idea thinking about who, but Wincott is that much better. For bar fight scenes, bar fight fiends, bar fight scenes. This one's not horrible. I think, obviously, we've been on to talk about American Ninja 2. This is no blind beggars bar. This is
No.
not, this is more of an afterthought bar fight scene as opposed to a centerpiece bar fight scene. But this is definitely the kind of place that they definitely sweep the eyeballs up at the end of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw this, I put it on the list for volume 2 of World's Most Dangerous Bars whenever that comes around.
Yeah. But, I think for people, we'll talk about this kind of later on, your most dangerous bars, World's Most Dangerous Bars Volume 1. This definitely is not, doesn't rise to that level, that, of that top 10 list.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But, we get some good stuff. I mean, my favorite, I think, is when, Wincott is fighting the baddies and somehow he ends up with the pool cue. And it's like, well, we know from Marshall Teague in Roadhouse, another, fantastic bar fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
We know that guys like Wincott, you don't want to let them have the pool cue. You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, that's the ultimate equalizer in the hands of Jeff Wincott.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
so
could have had 100 bikers and he could have handled it.
right, exactly. So no, he takes him down. Everybody's good, and he survives, but he realizes that somebody put a hit out on him. He thinks it's Dobbs. He thinks Dobbs is the one that's pushing. So he kind of tells Rothrock, "Hey, listen, things are getting dangerous here. These guys tried to kill me. Just watch your back. Just make sure, And I think if it wasn't Rothrock, I think if, like, for example, if Denise Duff had been playing his sidekick the whole time and, wasn't doing the fight scene, what from Shopping, or, that the beating up the guy with the club, if it was just, her going undercover to help him out, we'd be getting a damsel in distress kind of thing here. But
Right.
Fortunately, we don't get any of that. We get, Rothrock is now, she's in with this team, and she's there when they go in for this. I guess actually the way it works is the drug bust is about to happen. So we get the drug deal about to happen, and Wincott, as a detective, he's part of the bust team with Dobbs and with Captain Krantz, Billy Drago's character, and all the other guys there. And I do like the fact that he wears the duster to the drug bust.
Oh, it's his uniform. I mean, that's his style.
Yeah.
And he's not going to stray from it. That's the benefit of being a detective. You don't have to wear the uniform anymore. And he is taking full advantage of that.
Yeah. And
you should probably wear a suit, though.
Right, exactly. I completely forgot a major plot point here, why Billy Drago is letting them go along with the bust. Billy Drago goes on a date with Tiffany, has her in his bedroom, and fortunately she drugs him, because there's about to be a love scene there. And if she doesn't drug him, we might have had the full love scene with Tiffany and Billy Drago. He does profess his undying love to her, says, let's run away from here, let's go wherever. But she puts something in his drink. He's passes out, and he wakes up in bed. It's kind of not quite the horse scene in Godfather, but he wakes up next to a dead Tiffany. She's been killed, and Johansson says, hey, you're going to do this thing for us now. And the best part is that we get Evan Lurie with a Polaroid camera taking pictures.
Oh yeah,
definitely
dating this film.
Yes.
Because, like, even what are you going to do with a Polaroid? Like, are you going to give that to the newspaper? They're not going to be. What are they going to?
Right. Well, and you get the noise too. You get the classic Polaroid noise, the ching ding, kind of whatever that sound is.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed that obviously, because he mentions Tiffany when he has that first conversation. It's like, when am I going to get to see her again? So obviously he's in love with this woman.
Yeah.
And she seems to think, like, oh, this guy's power. He's a freaking police captain. He's my ticket out of this life. So she's all in, she's not necessarily in love with him, but she's in love with what he could potentially do for her.
Yeah.
So they show up after he's drugged, and they being Johansson and Lurie, and they shoot her and they see the gun. She's like, you said you weren't going to hurt him. I'm not going to hurt. It's not for him. Boom.
Yeah.
Uses the pillow as a makeshift silencer. Puts the gun in his hand, so naturally he calls them bastards and goes to shoot, but there's no bullets. But now his prints are all over it's his gun anyway. He's screwed. He has no choice but to go along with this perfectly $10 million drug bust.
Right, exactly. And what we know from police departments now is that they could have covered that up pretty easily. Like Johansson, they would have made Johansson's life hell and been like, there's no pic, whatever. They would have gotten in there, And actually, this would have been a good way to get Wincott involved. Like, if Drago just gone to Wincott and said, it just laid out on the line, laid out the whole thing to him, Wincott would have said, okay, let's bring these guys down, But Billy Drago doesn't do that. And he says, let's do the drug, he goes forward with the drug bust. So the plan is that they do the drug bust, which they go in, everybody goes in guns blazing, takes out, guys start to run. They're getting chased around. The snitch is there with his broken arm. Though it's kind of funny about the broken arm, right? Is that it's like this cast is kind of movable, right? It's got a kind of bendy cast as he's running around. But eventually he gets killed. I think.
Dobbs catches him.
Yeah, Dobbs kills him, and then they are supposed to transport the money back to the police station, and the idea is going to be that they're going to get hijacked. And so Dobbs and Wincott are driving the van with all the money in it. So $10 million in cash apparently in the back of this van.
Right.
And so Rothrock isn't part of the team. But oh my God, I just realized I completely forgot a huge scene in this movie. That's the James Liu scene.
Right. Yeah, they come and attack him in the dojo. They keep saying like we got to get rid of this guy, and they keep
Right.
trying, and nothing works.
Right.
But yeah, they send James Liu shows up. Pruitt is back in that one,
Yeah, Jeff
and it may have been
Amata.
Amada. I was gonna say, yeah, he's in
Yeah,
there too.
he plays the part of Long Duck Dong. I mean, I don't. It didn't it seem like Amata was like he was doing Long Duck Dong when he was fighting? I don't. It was
Yeah,
like
he
kind of
was.
just
Yeah, he was a little bit more comical than the other two.
right, right, and of course, yeah, Wincott takes them out at the dojo. I completely agree because this is part of the reason why we got such nondescript baddies at the beginning of the movies because they were saving Lou for this.
Right.
Yeah,
James Liu, excellent.
yeah, we get. I mean, he's uncredited as Spencer Hamilton Man, which I feel like Spencer Hamilton Man. That sounds like like a late '60s,
Cologne.
early '70s band or something.
I think it's a cologne.
Yes.
Spencer Hamilton, man.
That's yes. James Liu for Spencer. Like '90s, like late '80s, early '90s. James Liu would have been perfect for a Spencer Hamilton Man cologne, wouldn't it? Like
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, maybe like doing some karate moves, and then like a woman comes in and smells him and talks about how great he is. Like after my
Oh,
workouts,
it really packs a punch.
yeah, exactly. Yes. You know, yeah,
James Liu looks over his shoulder. Spencer Hamilton, man.
yeah. Well, 'cause when Tiffany puts the poison or the drug in Drago's drink, the container it's in looks like it's like one of those like sampler colognes, like you get the box that's like 6 samplers.
Mm,
Maybe she's slipping him a Mickey with some Spencer Hamilton Man.
maybe. And yeah, that's another, like you said, about like, couldn't they have done a blood test to see that the man was drugged? Like he had
Right,
no motive to kill this woman.
right.
And like, I was drugged. Do a blood test. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did have traces of whatever the hell. So
right.
you could
Spencer
not have
Hamilton Man.
yeah, Spencer Hamilton, man, in your bloodstream. Nobody could not sleep through that. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, Wincott of all people, he knew Wincott was onto, you
Mhm.
know, it's like Wincott would have helped him, and as police officers, they could have easily covered up any bad stuff that Drago did. It would have been when Drago's word as a decorated police captain against, creepy Paul Johansson and Evan Lurie, like that, any judge would have seen through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, but Lou is back. Lou and Jeff Amata, they actually come back as part of the gang. And I believe they and also Leo Lee, they're the ones who try to rob to do kind of the fake holdup of the money van. And the the plot twist, right, is that we think they're going to kill Wincott, but we remember Johansson had said, "Hey, we need to get rid of Dobbs too, right?
Yeah.
Because Dobbs is a problem." And what we don't realize is that the plan is kill Dobbs first, pin it on Wincott, and then kill
Mhm.
Wincott. Now, for me, I kind of feel like I get it. Like it's kind of like the idea of like, when you're getting rid of your credit card debt, do you tackle the biggest one first and work on that one? Or do you take out the small one and do that one first? And I
Right.
guess with the Wincott, right? Wincott's the bigger credit card debt, right? He's harder to deal with. I almost feel like you want to take him out first because Dobbs would be much easier after the fact. But they do it the other way around. And of course, Wincott just starts beating everybody up. He grabs, shotguns and starts, he's taking care of business. And he captures Leo Lee and tapes a shotgun to his neck. Uh, and so, and this is where the movie changes a bit because, well, I guess I don't know. To this point, the movie had been dark enough. But Wincott is a hero. He's definitely a cop on the edge, but he hasn't gone full over the edge yet. But when he gets when he brings the van to Paul Johansson's place, and they find
Which
out that,
is in a
oh,
factory for some reason.
right,
Like,
yeah,
how does he
exactly,
have access to? He keeps going to this fact. There's no like
right,
guards or like locks on it. They just walk in and nobody's ever working there. They
yeah,
just walk in and out. They must be at the park. I don't know where the hell these people are that work at this factory, but Johansson could just conduct all sorts of business in this factory. Is this his father's factory? Is that how they have money?
that could be the rich, yeah. Because I wonder, like, if you're a police department, especially in a major city, like, do you look at recent factory purchases? as suspicious. Like,
Mm.
why is this person buying this abandoned factory? Like what
Right.
do they plan to do there? It's like, oh, they're going to redevelop it.
But it's like
When?
operating though, because there's like
Right.
smoke coming out of the
That's
stacks and
right.
stuff. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
When
point.
that's like I watched when it got to the end, my first viewing, I'm like, did I miss something about what this factory has to do? But then when I watched it again today, I'm like, no,
No.
they just go there.
Right. Yeah. I guess that was a place they could shoot, and they thought, hey, this is a good lair for a baddie. And so yeah, so they just, like you said, they just show up. And so they're thinking like, okay, Leo Lee, he's gonna come on with the money. They realize, no, Wincott's got the shotgun to his head. And Wincott's like, hey, if you guys don't surrender, I'm killing this guy. And Johansson's like, well, sure, go ahead.
Go
Like,
for it, right? He doesn't care.
which I guess in that sense, it's not, I get why he would feel that way. Cause it's like, hey, the next, I'll just hire another bartender and,
Right?
see,
Yeah. That
right,
bartender worked out real like
right,
I got her here. She's gonna move the boxes from the van to a car.
right, exactly. Which
And that
she's,
car's gonna go to the fight promoter and I'm gonna get the fight promoted. Why didn't he just start promoting fights? Why did he
right.
I don't know.
Well, because yeah, right. Like, how hard would it have been to just have promote Evan Lurie for fights? And yeah,
Right. Like
just
just become his make him a thing and next thing you know, you've got your own thing and then
yeah,
it doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
or take his dad's money and use it to like poach fighters from other
Mm-hmm.
promoters, because apparently dad's rich, so use your dad, and become your own yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ways that didn't involve this convoluted criminal organization that he had.
And yeah, and like promoters are notorious for not being good on payoff. So you just like, hey, I'll pay you more if you fight for me.
Yeah,
Well, okay, I'll
yeah,
do it.
right, right, exactly,
It doesn't
exactly.
take much, you know.
No, no, exactly. So Johansson again, he's just like, go ahead, kill him, I don't care. And so Wincott does, blows his head off, boom. Which, it has a dual effect, right? Because one, it blows off Leoldie's head so he can show these guys he means business, but it also frees the shotgun for further head blowing offage.
Right.
And yeah, and Wincott, I mean, this is probably, I think this is probably one of the best parts of the movie for me, is just the Wincott shotgun foo.
Yeah. Yeah, the business really picks up here as you would expect for the big action finale.
Yeah.
And yeah, this part does not disappoint again though why they're in the factory, but you just got to not worry about that and you just got to go with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, do we get Rothrock fighting Cherie Rose
Yeah.
here? And then I was trying to remember, because eventually Wincott fights Evan Lurie,
Yeah, we get the
and
rematch.
right, and Rothrock fights Amata and James Liu, I think, at the same time,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So
And Lurie ends up chained up, and then he gets his Wincott compliments his suit
right.
when he's done after he's dead.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Exactly. Because yeah, the classic that's another thing about these factories, and I don't understand, if I'm the baddie and I've been in this factory all this time, right? That's the assumption. I should know where the chains are and understand the chain
Right.
hazards. But
Right.
Wincott seems to be able to get this thing on his neck pretty quickly, and it's a good tether job too. Like, that's the
Yeah.
other thing too, is I feel like with chains, I mean, I don't know, I don't work in chains very much, so I don't
No.
know.
No.
Yeah, but they seem, in action movies, they seem very easy to tether around things.
A lot of things are very easy in action movies that I don't think really would be in real life. I might be going out on a limb there, but I think so. But you know, the nice thing about him dying in that suit is you could just put him right in the casket and he's already dressed up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very little work. You save money on that. Just stick the embalming
Like
fluid. Yeah,
what do you want him to wear? Oh, he's already dressed. Okay.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Now, the fight with Sherry Rose actually isn't bad, but it doesn't take long before Rothrock kicks her over a railing. I
Got
think
to have
that,
a railing death. If you got a railing, you got to have a railing death.
yeah, yeah, Chekhov's railing in an action movie. Yeah. And if you have a factory, I think you've got to have both a railing death and a tethered chain hanging death of
Either
some
that or
sort.
like an electrocution. You got to get into
Electrocution.
you got to get kicked into machinery
Yeah,
or
yes,
like an electrical panel and die.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, all of these things. So this movie, it ticks off a couple of those boxes here. With the
World's most dangerous factories.
Yeah, God, there's some good ones there. Hard Justice, I think, right, would have. Was that
Oh,
a
we just
factory or
talked about. That was a warehouse.
warehouse? Okay, yeah.
That one
God,
got on the list. That is going to be the next Bulletproof podcast. We just recorded that one last night, and
did you? I can't wait to hear that one. Okay, that's
so
yeah, that's
that one's
fantastic.
coming up next week.
Excellent. What would be because also undefeatable wouldn't have been, um, right? That's not that was like a laundry, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the factory one. Who did I mean, I
I mean,
did the
Showdown,
factory. I had Cobra,
Cobra. Oh yes, yeah, yeah. The
RoboCop.
Showdown, RoboCop. Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, Showdown in
Oh,
Little Tokyo.
I didn't do that one, but
Because that's a
again,
brewery.
that is a. But I would count. It's a
Yeah.
plant. I'm trying to think which other ones made the cut for my hmm factories. Did I do Cyborg Cop or that would be one on there, but I don't
Oh
know.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, it's just Cyborg.
Oh right, right. That's yeah, that's right.
I threw in a little Child's Play 2. How about that one?
Nice.
Death Wish 4, The Crackdown.
Oh wow. Yes. Yes.
I
Okay.
do have Cyborg Cop 2 in there.
Yeah.
The Big Boss at the Ice Factory.
Oh, right. Oh yeah. The big. See, I wouldn't even think to go Big Boss on.
Exterminator 2 as the factory. Oh,
Yes, that one. Yeah.
Nobody. A more recent one. Nobody has the factory. And then Cobra, the Terminator, of course.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? And then RoboCop.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good one. That was
Big.
for my Labor Day spectacular.
That's right. The Big Boss. I never would have. That's right. That was on the list because I never would have thought that. But it's like it's perfect. Like you said, the Ice Factory is just
Yeah,
yeah,
little. I would like try to get some variety in these movies.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, this movie, this is this is another. But the thing about, like you said, about those other factories is we knew what they were making, right? Like
Right.
this factory.
This is a very mysterious factory.
Right.
It's dangerous and mysterious.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Well,
nobody seems to work there. This may
exactly.
be all automated. Maybe that was how they made so much money. They didn't have to employ workers.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Everything was it
They
was
were
just all the
using
machines.
robots and AI way back then.
Exactly. That's what Johansson, he was that's what the real business was. We didn't, he was using all this other criminal stuff to fund his AI.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And they didn't think people back then would understand what the hell that is, so they just didn't mention it in the
Right. They
movie.
just wrote it out of the script completely. Just take it out of the script. Yeah. The person reading the script was like, just take all that stuff out. But people
Or
are gonna
the
wonder what
AI took it out
oh, that's a
so
good
it wouldn't
point.
be revealed.
That's right. They went through Tubi and fixed it all. Yeah, they yeah, removed any mention of it. Yeah, that's the future of AI, right? Eventually we're going to find that Terminator 2 is going to be like that the robots were the heroes. Robert Patrick's the hero in Terminator 2 and the new AI version. You know? Oh. Now, one of the other things about these end fights is that kind of makes me think that again that maybe Rothrock and Wincott that they were kind of using them as dual heroes or they're kind of shooting them differently because you get kind of almost like a not quite a tournament style. It's kind of this technique that I guess other action movies use where you have kind of splits where
Right.
you know Wincott's off, he's fighting Lurie, then he fights Johansson. Rothrock, she fights Cherie Rose, then she fights James Liu and Amada. It's almost like they're kind of separate. They don't really team up together as much. Not like you get like maybe at the end of Undefeatable or something like that. But you get some good fight scenes here.
Yeah, when you have, I mean, that's pretty much if you have two heroes, you know there has to be at least two villains for the final fight. At least in like a now that's where when I would watch these old school kung fu movies, which I do quite a bit, that's where they flip that around. Like you'll have two or three good guys teaming up against the one main like master
Right.
of the style because he's which I guess just kind of does put that guy over. Like he's so freaking good that it takes two people to defeat him.
Yeah.
Like one person would not even with all the training montage, it does not work. You need at least another person in here,
Yeah.
maybe even a third to defeat the great master of the eagle claw or whatever the hell he's the master of.
Yeah, and here it's the opposite, right? It's, Rothrock takes two people. I
Right,
mean, the other
yeah. Here it's the good guys who have to go against the odds all the
thing,
time.
right? Yeah, because the other thing too, like we were talking about how a lot of times the baddies don't use their superior numbers, right? And they kind of take turns with that kind of thing. With those Hong Kong movies, like having like the 3-on-1, the way they would choreograph the 3-on-1 too, would just be like this next level thing that I know Rothrock said when she came here to America, she couldn't believe how we choreographed fight scenes here compared to what they did in Hong Kong. Because yeah, you wouldn't see anything like that here.
Yeah, they're next level, and they have been for quite some time. And yeah, and that's probably what keeps me coming back more and more and more to those movies. And I love them.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's and what's great now, I guess, is that we get so many more of them available. I remember, growing up, it was like somebody finding like a busted VHS of Chinese Connection at the video
Right.
store, and you hope the tracking's good enough to get you through the whole thing.
Right, or you'd have to like buy those like the good times tapes, but it's like,
Yes.
did you really want to spend money on, like, you didn't know what it was. You knew it wasn't
Right.
really Bruce Lee, but they were trying to trick you into it.
Yeah.
And so you almost were like, I'm feeling offended that you're trying to fool me, so I'm not going to spend the $9.99 to buy this tape. I don't know if I'd have a good time with this or not.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's not as short. The good time's not as short.
Now there's like 9,000 of them on the Wu-Tang channel on YouTube or on Tubi or anywhere else, basically all the free streaming things. So
Yeah, it's like, kids today don't realize, like, because I think we talk about kind of the fun of trying to find those kinds of movies, but there is also, at least, getting up in age, it's nice to not have to hunt or find anything anymore
right.
too, right? Like, it's nice to have it all right there.
Everyone's, it's nice when you could still, especially like on YouTube, you might be like, what the hell is, like, somebody uploads something, I've never even heard of this thing.
Right.
And you watch it and it's like, how have I never heard? Like, that's how that Command 5 with Wings Hauser. I'm like, where was this? But it's, again, it was a freaking TV movie that probably aired one time. And then
Right.
how somebody even got it onto YouTube, I don't even,
Right.
they tape it that night and they just happen to have these. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, because it's one of those things where, like, it's a combination of either somebody just happened to tape it because, like, maybe they saw that it was going to be on and they were like, let me tape this and watch it. Or it was one of those things where, like, somebody was watching something else that they were taping and they just left it to go, or they screwed up, programming the VCR to tape the wrong channel.
Or
Yeah,
it could have gotten released too. I mean, that's the other thing. When that video store boom happened, like they were putting anything they could out. Like, oh, well, let's see if some like that's how the Master got repackaged as like
right.
full ninja movies because ninja movies were hot. And I remember like, oh, what is this? Show Kasugi, and you get it. It's like, this is just a couple episodes jammed
Just a TV
together.
show, right?
God damn it.
Exactly. Right. Or like it was Irresistible Force, Rothrock, right? It was a TV pilot with
Right.
her, and they put it on VHS. Yeah, that's a good point because yeah, I think even like the old Spider-Man TV show, they packaged
Yeah,
that into movies.
they sure did.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it still blows my mind about that show that, they were like, well, we can't use any of the villains because, there'd be too much money. And it's like, well, Craven's just a Russian guy. You could have just had William Smith play him.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, that was,
yeah,
it was a different time. Like
it
that,
was.
none of them. I mean, none of those really did. Like
Yeah,
one, like it was always just generic, like bad guys.
exactly. Well, I found out
Other
that
than obviously other than the original Batman.
Batman, right? They had all the baddies. Yeah,
But
I,
like
I mean,
Superman, the Adventures of Superman, it was always just mobsters,
right? Exactly, exactly. Right. It was like mobsters, and it was like just wait for
mad
Superman to
scientists and stuff. It is like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like none of them did it. I found out with the Incredible Hulk that the reason why She-Hulk was invented was that Stan Lee found out that they were going to introduce Hulk's sister on the TV series. Had it made it, because CBS pulled the plug on all those shows after a certain point. And
right.
when Stan Lee heard about that, he's like, "We better make She-Hulk now, so that if they decide to bring her back, we can at least get some money for her." And so that's how we have She-Hulk. Was that, yeah, Stan
Mhm.
Lee didn't want to let CBS get, make their own property, I guess.
Smart.
Yeah. So because yeah, it's kind of funny to think about that there was really nothing else that Incredible Hulk show did in terms of baddies, right? They weren't using any of the baddies from the Incredible Hulk, but they almost invented She-Hulk.
Hmm. They didn't have an evil Hulk.
Did they use the evil Hulk in that one? I guess that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
they did have one episode where they had an evil Hulk.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of funny because all these attempts that we've seen of them trying to make the Hulk, the different movies and stuff that they've tried to make, and it really was just a TV show with Bill Bixby traveling the country and walking down like lonely roads that
Hmm.
it with Lou Ferrigno in green paint, and like they haven't been able to unlock that the way that show did.
No, some keep it simple.
Yeah, yeah,
They
and
overcomplicate things. I had that discussion about the GI Joe movie recently, where it's like they've overcomplicated those GI Joe movies, where it could be pretty simple, and you
yeah,
could just slowly introduce these kids. They don't all have to be on there in this first movie.
no.
You could go the Marvel route, where like you have different adventures, and then after like a bunch
Mhm.
of these movies make $20 bazillion, you put them all in there and hope that you make $500 bazillion. But no.
Exactly. Well, because the other thing about GI Joe was that GI Joe was a series of 30, or I guess 22 minute, or I guess not even 22, right? It's like more like 17 because you also had the the advice at the end.
Right.
But
PSA.
right, the PSA part, right, exactly. But it was like part of it was a sale for the new toys,
Of
so it was like,
course.
oh, we're releasing this new character, let's do an episode about them. So that was part of it. But you're right, because when you would watch the episodes, they didn't just have everybody in every episode. You
No.
get, I mean, there was a
They-
few like Roadblock or somebody who might be in a lot of them, but yeah.
And yeah, and they just had like the generic GI Joe guys too for like the background. Like they could have easily put everybody, but it was easier to animate just guys in green uniforms,
Right.
because the Cobras just had all the blue Cobra guys. So it's like, well, that's the equivalent of they're just green guys, and they've got the blue lasers and they got the red lasers.
Yes. Yeah. I think kind of same thing with the He-Man movie, right? With Dolph Lundgren. It's almost like
Oh, that's the
the
greatest movie ever made. Well, not the greatest. It's very good though.
yes, yeah.
Death Wish 3 is the greatest movie ever made. But
Yeah, it's hard to top Death Wish 3, like especially because you've got Ed Lauter there,
mm-hmm.
and it's like if you were going to ask me about Death Wish 2, like what it needed, with Michael Winner, like what insanity it needed. I wouldn't have said it needed Ed Lauter along with all the other stuff that was being added to the movie, but it just works, doesn't well, like especially like some of those just big set pieces they have in it.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, it's a good
But
one.
Masters of the Universe, I love that movie as well.
It's good, but it's I think making a cartoon into a live action thing is harder than we think it. I think making a video game into a live action thing seems to be
Yeah.
harder.
But they keep trying those. They will never
Yeah,
stop trying those.
right, exactly. It's funny. I mean, obviously Bronson's no longer with us. Yes, we have the fake Bronzy, we have the Robert Bronzy guy, but it was a very simple formula that Canon had. It was just let's get Bronson out there, make sure he's got a nice solid mustache, and see how many people he can kill over the course of a movie, how many creative ways he can kill people, and just yeah, and play on all kinds of different things. Go into a poor neighborhood and have gangs there and just blow them all away with a Gatling gun or something like that. And it's a formula that really hasn't been topped. It works.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah.
Again, everything's overcomplicated. They think people were, I don't know, too sophisticated for such things. And you know what? I think people are getting less sophisticated every day, but they
Yeah.
also have less attention span. It's a mess.
It is.
This is why I watch movies that are 20, 30, 40 years old, because it's just better that way.
Yes, no, I agree. And I guess with this movie, I guess we're at the end, aren't we? I mean,
Oh, we've got such a happy ending to this film.
right. So Wincott, he defeats Johansson. He kills him. I was trying to remember, like, I think it's one of those deals, right, where he lets him live, and then Johansson tries to,
Oh, yeah, I can't. Yeah.
yeah. Because it's one of those things, right? I think it's a classic move that the movies today don't do as much of, and that is the hero looks bad if he kills somebody who is incapacitated or like injured
Right.
or whatever, because you're killing them in cold blood. It's not, it doesn't work. And so with these movies, they would always do the hero's going to take the high road, let them live, but then the baddie gives him no choice, and that's how you dispatch it.
Right. And especially I'm like, yeah, obviously, uh, he was responsible for his friend Borelli getting killed, but it wasn't his. Like, if he killed his family,
Yeah,
then yes, he should not have hesitated and he should have just murdered, Bronson style. You
right.
killed my family. Of course, in Death Wish 3, he just killed his friend and his short time lover. But that's, at that point, Bronson that was just his routine. It was killing garbage people. So, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, they gave Wincott the benefit of the doubt here. You're like, okay, you had no choice but to kill him.
Yeah, and that's it. He's done. And so Wincott and Rothrock, they kind of they've successfully solved this case and killed everybody that was involved. That was involved in the Borelli case, and that's it. They don't say he does.
No, they go to Drago's house.
That's right. That's right. They do. I forgot about that.
He's
That's
like, oh,
right.
the captain was involved in this too. Let's go pay him a visit.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
They knock on the door, and he knows they're probably coming because he's sitting there with his gun. They knock on the door. He blows his fucking brains out.
Yes.
The credits roll. That's it.
Exactly.
What a uplifting movie. I was skipping around after such a nice, happy ending.
Right. It was like the end of like a In the Heat of the Night episode or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like Carol O'Connor
like a Miami Vice.
Right, exactly.
Those never ended nicely.
No. They and then they would just roll credits up. The music was, I was trying to remember. I think they went with the New Jack Swing song when they rolled credits here.
Yeah, I believe it was because it was like, oh, it's what? Oh no, it's not the song that I think it is. I don't even know what song it is, but it sounds like a song that I think is a song.
Exactly. Yeah, at least Miami Vice would have had like a kind of like a somber like bumper music, transition music, and then into the Jan Hammer theme. Yeah, and then In the Heat of the Night, that was just always a somber theme.
Right.
That's on the retro channel here. And it's like sometimes, like, because I work from home, my wife will be watching it maybe in the living room, and I'll be talking to her, and she has these shows on in the background, doesn't pay any attention to them. But like the moment I sit down, I'm just like, what is Carol O'Connor up to this time? What's going on? What's that big former football player guy that's like a deputy sheriff or something? It's like whatever that guy's up to, I want to see what he's doing. And she's like trying to tell me something, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just she'll have the sound down even, and I'll be trying to figure out what they're doing with it. So it's like but you'd see like the way that scene was shot, where Billy Drago puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger, and he's taking the drink and all of that was just very like, yeah, you said Miami Vice, that kind of thing. It's almost like we're gonna have our real like TV cop show moment here at the end.
Maybe they were hoping to make this a series.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have watched it. I know you guys on Bulletproof recently did an episode, covered an episode of Street Justice.
Oh, Street Justice, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in middle school, I think it was middle school, whatever it was, whenever Street Justice was on, Friday nights on this local independent channel, they would do Street Justice and Renegade. What a great block.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But I mean, imagine a martial law in that block with Wincott and Rothrock, kind of saying like that threefer would be quite a night. If you go from 8 to 11 watching Street Justice, Renegade, and then martial law with these two, it'd be fantastic.
Not to be confused with the actual show called Martial Law.
That's right. Yes, right. Which comes up when you look this one up. Yeah.
With Sammo Hung, of course.
Yeah.
Following the Jackie Chan explosion here in America. They were like, what other Hong Kong guys can we get? Oh, Sammo Hung. Yeah, let's put him on TV.
Yeah.
It was like the combination of Walker doing so well on TV and Jackie Chan doing so well in the theaters that we got Martial Law.
Did they do a crossover episode, I think?
With Walker, yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, speaking of Evan Lurie's Arsenio Hall suits, Arsenio Hall was in Martial Law.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so
He was like a late ad in season 1, and then he was pretty much. They got rid of the Mandalore. Was it Costas Mandalore? Or was it Louis? I don't remember. I always get him confused.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. One of the Mandalores got out. They lost his job. Arsenio was in.
Yeah. Yeah. Once they realized he was available, they were like, well, we don't need a Mandalore. We can upgrade our Mandalore.
I'm sure that was going for that Rush Hour.
Yeah.
Rush Hour vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how many TV shows. I mean, obviously, I think of like Full House when that was on. And I remember when I saw the ads for it, I was like, this is just 3 Men and a Baby. Like,
right.
But what are we just because you added a couple daughters? It's not 3 Men and a Baby. It does seem like that. It's just like these people must sit around these big tables. I guess I don't know how TV works nowadays, but I just imagine these people sitting around these big tables and like, what do you guys have for ideas? And none of them, they're all like maybe hungover. They didn't really work, and they it's like, what ideas do we have? And they look in the paper and they see 3 Men and a Baby playing at the local Cineplex or something on the Times, Oh, well, what about this show? I got an idea. This guy his wife dies, and he's got. Wait, but isn't that no, because there's going to be 2 more kids, so it's not 3 Men and a Baby because it's 2, and none of them are as cool as Ted Danson or Tom Selleck,
right?
Or I guess even Steve Guttenberg. I don't know. I guess you could say Jesse Cuts, but I don't know what his last name was in the show. It's some Greek name,
right?
But I mean, the only thing I remember about that show is it had John Aprea from all the PM films. So
yeah.
And
some of the Sedaris films as well.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Savage Beach.
Yeah. It's like, like obviously they've tried to make direct, like they tried to directly take movies and make them TV shows like Blue Thunder.
Oh, yes.
Stuff, and they failed. So they were like, they got wise to that. Like, okay, we can't directly, like, we don't want to just make a show called 3 Men and a Baby. But yeah, let's take some of those elements, but put enough other elements in so like 3 Men and a Baby people cannot sue us. And here's your show, ABC. What do you think? Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And I guess too, because it was targeted towards younger people who I guess was 3 Men and the Baby. Was that an R? It wasn't R-rated though, was it? It was like PG-13.
It could have been PG-13. I mean, obviously, Tom Selleck, and he was appealing to an older audience.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Gutenberg, what was he? He was, I don't know what he was appealing to at that time, but
he was appealing to Gutenbergs all around the world.
Right. Well, was it Police Academy 4 that he did? Was it Police Academy 4 that he did around that same time?
I don't know if I don't remember at what point he disappeared from the fantastic series that I've forgotten most about.
Right. I know. It's like, God, good old Gutenberg. Did you see recently with the fires in LA?
Yeah, Gutenberg's a hero. We shouldn't be talking shit about Steve Gutenberg.
No. It was like, leave your keys in your car so Steve Gutenberg can move it if he has to, if they have to, so yeah, even Gutenberg could be a hero. So yeah, a real life hero, right? Not a fake action movie hero. So, not that these guys aren't fakes, but they're good fun. But I guess so. Yes, it's a rambling here. Chris, anything else on martial law too that you wanted to mention?
No, I'm glad you picked this one because it had been so long since I'd saw it, and filled with so many all-stars and so many familiar faces, and always good to have a great action hero team up. Rothrock and Wincott certainly fit that bill. 2 big martial arts action heroes.
Yeah, they bring it, and then of course that supporting cast of. I mean, obviously Laurie's acting not the best, but his martial arts was good.
He had a good presence about him, and better things were to come for Mr. Lurie as time went on.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, we're still like a few years removed from Hologram Man as Slash Gallagher. Well, at this point, I was going to say, do your plugs. This is one of the things I wanted to mention about Bulletproof was we kind of teased it a little bit here. Is one of your most recent posts that I really liked was the most dangerous bars, your top 10 list.
Oh yeah, that one was one of my, the whole World's Most Dangerous gimmick came from World's Wildest Police videos with Sheriff John Bonnell as our host. And I don't know why that show popped into my head late one night, and I started seeing them on YouTube, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do my own version of that, because when I'm typing up these descriptions, rest assured, Sheriff John Bonnell's voice is in my head as I'm typing them up. But yeah, we did the bars. Actually did that back in November, but when it was St. Patrick's Day, it felt like a good time to reshare that with the world, because people were probably getting drunk that day.
Yeah, and I don't want to give the list away. I will say, especially like the top five, where they were like all movies that I was expecting to be on the list, and I was like, they kind of slotted all in exactly where I would have put them. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, this movie's here, that must mean that these ones are ahead of it, and it's like, it's like I know, and I should, I mean, I'll mention a couple that are on the list for people that are checking. I mean, obviously, Blind Beggar's Bar from American Ninja 2. You can't have that list without that one. I mean, and it's such a great bar fight scene. It's like, we've talked about it here when you were on the show, but it was such a great moment in that film.
It's one that you're like, I will just queue up that scene at any time, and just like, I'll go to like like it'll come on to Prime and it'll disappear, like all these streaming services, it'll disappear, and then all of a sudden it pops back up on Prime. And I go to play it, and it's like right after. It's always like right after. Like, oh, okay, so I went back and watched that, and then was like, all giddy, and then turned it off. And what do? I just rewind it a little bit again and start all over. Like,
I think when I was in high school, we rented that, and I think we wore out the tape for that, because we kept rewinding it back and playing it. Like we watched it one time through, but then it was just like we just kept going back to that, because it's just like the combination of Steve James and Dudikoff, and then of course why can't I think of his name? Larry Poindexter. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a great. It has like all the things you want from a bar fight. It's the throwing through chairs and tables, people getting smashed with bottles, the two heroes looking at each other and then deciding to punch somebody at the same time. I mean, but then Steve James is just really yucking it up on this other level. It's just so, I mean, the bowling pin thing where he's like kind of.
I was gonna say the sound effects and just the music is just really helps the whole thing.
Yeah,
brings it all together.
Such a great one. I was trying to think of some. I mean, obviously, Roadhouse is. I mean,
I mean, that the whole movie's about bar fights. So it's like, if that wasn't on the list, I may as well just leave. But so that one's on there. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess if you ever do Most Dangerous Car Dealerships, that might appear
that'd be
a
good one. Street Crimes has that one at the beginning, where Michael Worth is going to buy a thing and it gets robbed, and then they go crashing through and then the Commando has one.
That's right, Commando as well. So I guess there could be. So I just thinking about with Roadhouse, but there's
and then of course, what was it, Rolling Vengeance, where Ned Beatty has this, and he takes he like smashes the whole thing. Right. Oh, I'm adding this to that's also why I started doing it, because like, there's just endless possibilities. And again, that's why that's also why I always put volume 1 on these things, because I'm always waiting for somebody to be like, I didn't have this movie. I'm like, oh, that's why it's only volume 1. This thing could go on to volume 302. Right, especially for bar fights, because they're in every goddamn action.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime Don the Dragon Wilson in a Blood Fist movie walks into a bar,
right?
It's just like, that's it, and especially if it's like a bar that has big burly men sitting around.
Right.
It was just a matter of time before,
like we saw in the martial law too. You've got a bunch of bikers, and some little short guy with maple syrup in his hair and a duster strolls in, asking too many questions. Which was just one, actually. Reason to kick the shit out of them.
Yeah, that's it. It's so, it's such a great series, because I know, some of the other ones you guys did were like Most Dangerous Parking Garages, because that's also
that was the first one. Yeah, that was really what inspired. I'm like, I gotta do something with parking. So that's where it all came together. And then I'm like, but there's other bars, and
Yeah.
we did hospitals.
Yes.
We've done shopping malls. We did factories, which we talked about, and there's plenty more on the list. There'll be one coming up, a new one coming up in April. I haven't decided on what it will be, but there's a couple options out there. So
nice. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to check that one out. I mean, the bar one was the one I was waiting for when you released the garage one, most dangerous garages. The bar one was the one I was waiting for, and I mean, like I said when I shared it on the Facebook, it didn't disappoint. It was exactly what I wanted for that. And so, yeah, people should definitely check. I mean, maybe this is a good time to say where people can find Bulletproof.
of course, it's bulletproofaction.com, a good old-fashioned website. I know they're not always the thing of the day. I'm happy to say that 2025 has been a better year for the site. Last year was like, was getting to the point, some of those where it's like, should I keep doing this? Is this something I should keep putting time and money into? Because it doesn't seem like anybody wants this. But, things are picking up, which is a good sign and encouraging. And obviously when people like yourself give me good feedback, like what I'm doing, because those take a long damn time too. Yes. Those world's most, like that's why I've cut them down. It was top 10. I'm like, now they're top 8. So I'm like,
right.
My God, these things are like 5,000 words long. Trying to Sheriff John Bonnell narrate these things.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because it is. You're absolutely right. Like I've noticed the same thing with the site that the posts are getting more views than the podcast is getting streams now. When it used to be the other way around, where it was like you put a post out and you'd be like, okay, is anybody really interested? It does seem like people are reading more. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the back to work thing. I guess if you're riding on the train or stuff, you got to read. Yeah, but I would have thought podcasts you'd listen to in the car. So I guess that who knows.
I don't know. I can't explain any of it. I've never been able to. I've been doing the site for over 10 years, and the stats are the biggest mystery to me. Like some things will just blow up for no apparent. Sometimes it's like you can control it. You could be like, hey, I'm going to share this. It's so-and-so's birthday. It's a big anniversary. And it's like, okay, that makes sense why a bunch of people checked it out. But other times it's like, why in the hell are so many people checking out Beyond the Law on my site? I don't know, but they do. Beyond the Law was like the #1 post for like 5 years running, and then it made a comeback last year. Why?
Right. Yeah, you just never know. I know with Dolph Lundgren, his most popular post for a long time was Army of One, and it was because I mentioned the fact that Kristen Alfonso got nude in it, even though she doesn't. It's a body double. Right. But people were just typing in Kristen Alfonso nude, and they were coming to my site, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll take the traffic. But yeah, like you said,
I'm gonna start putting that in every every one of my articles.
Right,
And completely unrelated, Kristen Alfonso nude. All right, we'll be back next time for another review. Right. Have a nice day, everybody.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's a good place for us to leave it. I'll put that in the description as well. And Christian Alfonso nude or something like that. But
maybe get more listens. Come on, let's get these numbers up.
We'll get the more yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like with people putting different tags for things at IMDb, or like putting in a face on the cover that isn't really in the movie. Christian Alfonso nude. But thank you again, Chris, for coming on. This was a really fun episode.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.